across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you through until 1 o'clock as ever. And coming up at midnight, I really want to, I know I say this, but I honestly really want to hear from you about what you think about this, because this is something that I think about quite a lot. And that is technology and where technology is going. And this is on the back of the Grok story that has been talked about. It's called on Elon Musk. Calls on Elon Musk to urgently deal with artificial intelligence, Grok, and called for better policy and regulation. This is the technology, by the way, that's being used to take images of people and remove their clothing, basically, using AI. So we're talking about AI, we're talking about the rise of the robots, NVIDIA saying that this year we'll see fully autonomous robots working in places now, humanoid-looking robots. Also, these deep fakes, which are extraordinary, that you just cannot tell. It's very difficult to tell. You can't really intellectualize them. I get a gut feeling when the AI isn't a human being talking, but it's just a gut feeling because they're so good. So I do want to talk to you about what does the future look like to you, because the future is kind of here. Right, it is here. We keep talking about this like it's going to be like, oh yeah, I'll probably be gone by then, but we won't be. We're not. We're here, and it's rapidly changing. And there are no safeguards around it at the moment, because Donald Trump has made sure of that by saying to AI companies in the rest of the world, if you interfere, if you put guardrails around, if you restrict the AI, the American AI being used in your countries, we will hit you with greater tariffs. So there's all of these issues going on now. Australia got into real trouble over limiting young people up to the age of 16 of going on social media. So there's a lot of things going on at the moment. Does the advancement of AI and robots scare you or thrill you? What do you see the future looking like? For you, for us, for humanity? I know it's a sort of existential question, but I think it's really, really interesting because, come on, we've all thought about it. I'm a big sci-fi fan. I watch all of these dystopian future movies. I love them, can't get enough of them. But more and more now, it's starting to look like a documentary. So I just wonder where you are. Maybe it is just me, I don't know. But should we be concerned? Should we be more concerned about what this future looks like to us? And there's a new term I want you to get used to as well, is techno-feudalism. We all know what feudalism is, right? Feudalism is when in the past, in the past-ish, when a few very rich people owned all of the land in the UK and hired it to us in order to have a living. So we would pay rent, if you like. We would be under their cosh. We were controlled by these lords. We were serfs. Well, techno-feudalism is a relatively new term, which is exactly the same. It's looking at X, it's looking at Facebook, it's looking at all of these organisations who we become dependent on, and then they start to charge us. Look at X, for example, and they mine our data and they take from us, and we pay rent really to them, and we can't do anything without them. We can't do anything without them. You know, you want to pay a bill, it's on your phone, or it's on technology, or it's through a banking app. You know, they're closing banks down so that you don't see people face to face. It's all technology, and we are sleepwalking into this world where we will have no control over our own lives. These tech companies will own us if they don't already. So that's what I want to talk about. It is a different kind of phone-in, but I'm really fascinated by this, and I hope you are too. Does the advancement of AI and robots scare or thrill you? because some people would be really excited about it. And can you spot fake news? Do you know fake AI personalities? Can you see them as well? It's hard. It is for me. It's just a gut instinct. It's nothing else. It's not, thinking, that's fake. It's like, that feels fake. Right, so that's what we're going to be talking about at midnight. John Boothman joins us as well, a political correspondent at the Sunday Times in Scotland, to discuss the first PMQs of the year. It was a bit of a damp squib, to be honest, but we'll be talking to John Boothman about that. Also, Graham Whettone, who's a crime and policing commentator. I want to talk to him about this sentencing of this boat guy, the guy Adam Savas, listed on the National Crime Agency as the most wanted man and the most significant supplier to gangs of boats and engines and things like that to transport people across the channel. Also, just so you know as well, the fabulous Amy Fisher will be here to discuss the newspapers for tomorrow. But in the meantime, let's go back to this top story. Technology Secretary Liz Kendall has called on Elon Musk's X to urgently deal with its artificial intelligence chatbot Grok and called for better policy and regulations. The technology is being used to create undressed images of people without their consent. Children as well, children. 2026 could also be the year where the arrival of advanced robots, according to the CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, says it will create jobs rather than losing them. He told Sky News technical advances in AI and robots are happening very quickly. So with all this innovation, should we be concerned or should we embrace? I think we've got no choice. I think we've got no choice. Anyway, to discuss this with me further is Joshua Vole, who is CEO and co-founder of Mindstone. That's an AI learning platform. Joshua, thank you for joining me. I think that should be Vole, should it?
Vole is actually very well. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, well, thank you. I always try and get people's names right because people get mine wrong. So I always try. I do my best. Joshua, look, there are some really fantastic things about AI, which I love. You know, the sort of advancement, the combination of AI and medicine, for example. The medical profession is extraordinary and it's breaking through new treatments, new cures. It is unbelievable. But there is a worry, isn't there, about AI and the fact that there are so few guardrails around it. At what point do we lose control of it? I think that's the concern.
Yeah, and I think it is a valid concern, especially because of how fast things are moving today. I think a good framework to think through what is happening is that AI ultimately is a tool. It's a tool that can be used for many things, and it's probably one of the most powerful tools that we have ever developed. And it can be used for really good things, and it can be used for really bad things. I mean, you were talking about sexually explicit images that can be created, which is terrible. I spent 10 years of my life building a safer internet for kids. When this starts to touch on that topic, this is a really serious issue. But also, this is, when used well, AI is able to eliminate a lot of the tasks that humans actually don't necessarily want to do. And so the thing I think that is important for all of us to realize here is that we do have agency in how this technology is getting developed and what we do with it. And we often fear what we don't quite understand. And one of the things that is currently completely getting underinvested in, and we're getting hundreds of billions invested in the development of this technology, but very little is actually going into helping people understand how to use it. And this is part of the problem, there's a lot of promise and very little delivery, but then you end up counterbalancing against the risk. And so right now, I'd say the risk reward is not quite where we want it to be. So I'd love to see more of that.
The thing with, I mean, you say a tool, a car is a tool, and we know that can be used for evil, right?
Yeah.
It depends who's driving it. And that's the thing with AI, is without guardrails on it, the fact that there's these open AIs and people can just do what they like with it. Not everybody, this may come as a shock, is a decent human being like you, right? So there are going to be people, criminals, gangsters, tech bros, presidents, prime minister, whoever, who want to use this for bad. And there's nothing stopping them from doing that. We are relying at the moment on the programmers of AI and the users of AI using it for good. And that has never worked out well for the human species.
So I would think about that slightly differently. Because actually the legal frameworks already exist that would prevent the bad use of the AI, exactly as you put it. Everyone that would use this technology for doing bad in the world in different ways, we actually have legal frameworks that already punish that usage. Just like in the same way that we're not blaming producers of hammers for the fact that some hammers are being used to do really bad things to people, I don't think it's the right framework to think through and blame OpenAI necessarily only for what bad would happen
but we have to
from
consider,
their technology.
We have to consider that, because a hammer might kill a couple of people, but AI unguarded in the hands of millions of wrongdoers could kill billions. I mean, that's the difference here, right? So I get the what you're saying, but this is bigger than we even know, right? So there's
totally
more
agree.
Potential for more damage to more people.
Yes, and that part I think we should take very seriously. And there should be frameworks around this. And actually, there are some, and the EU AI Act is a starting point on how you can use this technology. There are actually some laws across the US in terms of at what point do different safeguards come into play. And actually, there's a lot published on this. Anthropic, for example, is very open in their research on how they test their own models. They publicly publish how they try to make the models do bad things. And they do this in order to understand what happens when if someone were to try this, how would the model react? They have a whole framework around how they classify the capability of their models and then publish that to the world so that we can understand what we should do with this.
But we already know that AI lies, right? There's that famous case recently that
yes.
It's learning to lie. I mean, it wasn't taught to lie, but it's learning to lie. And this is the other thing, is a hammer until you melt it down and it goes in the bin, right? It doesn't change. It doesn't become a machine gun. No. But AI can. Again, because if it NVIDIA even saying, look, it's going so quickly now, you know, our brains won't be able to keep up with their brains, and how quickly things can change, and that's the concern, isn't it? Is that it could become something different.
Absolutely, and in order to make good decisions on how we guide this technology to the point where we get much more of the benefit and reduce a lot of the downsides, a lot of the risk that comes with it. One of the biggest things that is currently missing is for more people across society to understand just what the AI is capable of. And I think that is a really important starting point.
Do we understand that though? Yeah. Does anybody understand what it's capable of?
Even inside the bigger labs that are building it at the moment, they are not quite understanding how they get to the capabilities that the AI is able to get to.
See, that's
right
worrying.
now. And this is
that is worrying, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. And I don't want to underplay how important it is that we really keep an eye on this, whilst at the same time putting a real emphasis on just how much the upside is from everything that we're looking at here. You mentioned healthcare, you mentioned there's so much that people can get out of this technology at the same time, so long as we're if we're able to get people to a level of conversation that is more understanding of what is actually possible, then we can make decisions on what types of frameworks should we be looking at what point do we accelerate, at what point do we slow down. Right now, a lot of those discussions are coming from a point of ignorance, if I'm truly honest. Most people do not quite understand just how much more AI is able to do than they think. We're having this conversation here now about, is it too powerful? Whereas the biggest part of the narrative is still asking, oh, everything is overhyped. We're looking at a bubble. Everything is going to implode. You can't really have both of those discussions at the same time. Either it is capable or it is not capable. But right now, there is not enough understanding that gets everyone to understand just how much is possible. And then based on that understanding, we can make the right decisions.
Well, I hope the right people are making those right decisions, Joshua. But thank you very much indeed. It's been wonderful to talk to you. Thank you for joining me. Joshua Voley, who's co-founder of Mindstone, which is an AI learning platform. Well, let's learn a little bit more now about the policies and challenges that are surrounding this form of technology. And joining me to discuss that is Ant Morse, author and fractional AI advisor. And thank you very much indeed for joining me. You were listening there to Joshua and hearing some of my concerns. And I think one of the biggest concerns is that we don't understand its limits. So how can we be aware of what guardrails we need to put around it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's two different parts to this. There's where we are with the technology itself today. So what is it actually capable of, and what are the models and the tools that we can actually use? And then where is it heading? And this is where there's a kind of a conflict of opinion. There's experts suggesting that we're going to get to general intelligence. This is where it surpasses our own intelligence and it kind of, starts to think for itself. And that's that kind of worrying point that you and Joshua kind of mentioned. But actually, if we pull it back to where we are today, we really only have a very clever calculator. It's a prediction model. It is impressive in what it does and the way people use it. And we're at that point now where we probably wouldn't like to give it back. We're using it more and more. But actually, it is still only a calculator. And in making its predictions, it gets things wrong. And that's where there is this concern that not only what is the model we're using, but actually what are the outputs that it's giving us back? How good are they? And if we're using this in a business environment, a corporate environment, then we run the risk of, confusing the matter massively. Also, as well, we're not sure what these models are being trained on. Everybody is racing to get to our attention and in turn our wallet spend. But what are they training their data on? We've been generating AI content for quite a while. And if we think about how it works in this guessing and predicting and trying to give us an answer it thinks we want, might not be accurate. So the model is actually being trained on what they refer to as AI slop. It's its own possible questionable data. So there is those kind of clear distinctions, what it's capable of today, but also, where it might head in the future. And that is probably a grayer area where, we'll leave certain experts to debate and discuss and progress their technologies. But right now we have a very useful tool, which is, fundamentally changing the future of work.
Can I ask you about techno-feudalism, which I mentioned at the top of the programme? I've just bought Yanis's book, actually, literally just this evening, looking at techno-feudalism, because that has got to be where, for me, policies and guardrails and blocks are put on these vast companies, Palantir, X, all of these companies, and in the hands of a few people who are pretty close now to running the world in terms of technology. And I can't see any other future but techno-feudalism unless these monopolies are stopped.
You're absolutely right. And it's more troubling is it is accelerating towards that possibility of feudalism at the moment. Where we are at the moment, as mentioned, we've got these incredibly useful tools that help us do our job. Where it's heading, and heading at some pace, is to agents and assistants. And basically, these will be parts of AI that do clever things for us in our daily jobs so they make our lives easier. What that will quickly do is move towards assistant AI, which is where me and you will both have an assistant. I have a number of different test beds, and I have an AI assistant called Scout, and Scout kind of guides me through my day and does various tasks for me. When those are taken from pilots and concept into deployed models and commercially available models, we'll all have them. Now, these will...
But will we be forced to have them because without them we won't be able to achieve anything? I mean, maybe not with the assistants, but we're already seeing it with online banking, right? That we're being forced into taking this technology. We've taken it. They then take away that human contact. I mean, this new ID card that is being mooted, that will mean we cannot access. So people might say, oh, would it be voluntary to some point? No, it won't, because it will make it so difficult that we have to have that tech. That's what I'm talking about. It's that forced reliance on a few companies.
Yeah, and we will, in short. And if you think about this technology kind of scared people, it still scares people today. We're unsure about what it is, but yet people are using it. It took 16 years to get to 100 million users of the mobile phone. It took 3 months to do the same for OpenAI. Wow. So, a technology we're all slightly scared of, but we're not frightened to use it. Now we're entering that next stage where we've gone from kind of trialing and testing it to actually paying for it. I chair an independent innovation forum of business leaders across the UK and some global organizations. And in March last year, we asked them, how many of you pay for AI, of any sort? And 8%, there's about 300 members, 8% were paying for AI. We asked exactly the same question in November, just gone. 54%.
That is another point. That's where the feudalism comes in, because they offer it for free, then we pay for it, and then we're paying rent to the overlords again.
Indeed. And this is where, when we move to this, from ask the question, could we do without AI? And if we were to say, well, if 54% are paying for it, well, what do the other 46% do? Do they, if we took the free tools away, would they then pay for it? And I think the answer is yes, they probably would, because people hop around the free models, to get best value.
Well, we see it with things like Netflix, don't we? They take away something, and then if you want it back, you have to pay for it. There's a model there, and it's successful.
Absolutely, and it's creeping as well. So if we pay for AI, what will you pay for an assistant? So if it goes from writing a document and helping you navigate a piece of research to suddenly, renewing your car insurance, or speaking to your bank, or speaking to your water provider, suddenly it's doing more. You mentioned in your introduction around health. I mean, health is going to be massive, and this is where I play tech advocate, but also devil's advocate. The things it's going to do in health, we can't, nor should we stop. It's going to be incredible. Both at a scientific level, but also at a personal level, our personal health. These agents and assistants, they won't just ring the bank and challenge a transaction. They'll say, you need to go to the gym, or you've been visiting McDonald's too much, or your blood pressure's slightly high. I know it's going to get a bit much, but it's coming, and you'll pick and choose those services. But when it gets to that, guess what? So will the fee. It will suddenly be of such value. They say, well, I'm going to pay more. My view is, how quickly will we move from a £20 OpenAI subscription to a £200, £300, £400 assistant subscription? Now, also around the periphery of that, we look at things like spatial computing, these kind of headsets and glass technology. And then we look at robotics, and you mentioned NVIDIA earlier, and Jensen Huang's view is that robots are going to be here before we know it, and they will. But this isn't just because they're looking for new innovations. These actually move us from a guessing model to an assistant to what they refer to as world models, because your AI can only answer questions and help you based on what it knows, which is usually what you've told it. So at the moment, it's kind of harmless. It's probably, there'll be a few listeners cringe at that comment, but we only give it certain bits of information. When it starts to pick up on things like glass technology, so it's aware of our surroundings, and robots in the workplace and in our homes eventually, suddenly it will learn so much about our surrounding lives. Plus, our assistants will know where we go shopping, where we go, who we bank with, who our water companies are with. Suddenly, we move from a clever bit of tech into what we refer to as world models, where these things are super conscious, and that's when it will really impress. It will catch many people out, and it will catch lots of organisations out, but ultimately, we'll get there. Now, the challenge here is this is when we are so embedded with these solutions that we naturally accelerate feudalism, because at that point, how do we switch it off? Also, as you'll probably find with your own usage, it learns more about you the
Yeah.
more you use it. Well, at the moment, can we migrate our memory? We can migrate our phone number from one network to another, but could you migrate your OpenAI or your Gemini or your Grok data to another model? Well, the answer at the moment is no. And there's a reason for that, because that data is training the model to make it better, but also to improve the service it gives to you. It doesn't want to hand that to a competitor. The race at the top, at this tech bubble conversation, is so ferocious. It is driving the acceleration of these solutions, as I say, whether it's assistant AI, whether it's robotics or spatial computing. And that's when it builds us to this. Now, there is a kind of positive outcome here, or potential for a very positive outcome, which is, rather than be owned by the feudalist system, actually, do we look at things like sovereign or cooperative AI models? Now, many will say, yeah, but it's too expensive. You know, you can't just start a cooperative and say, well, let's build our own version of OpenAI. But actually, DeepSeek did that. They did that, you know, a couple of years or so back. So why can't we? So actually, and in doing that, could we say, well, I'm happy to give up all of this information to have great services, whether it be an assistant helping me pay the bank or keep me fit and healthy. But actually, I want my information to be very private. And we kind of lock it down into this, you know, private system, which we all
we've got to
agree.
come up with something, otherwise
I think that's the answer.
All of those tech bros are just gonna own us if they don't already. And it's great to talk to you. Thank you. I've really enjoyed it. I wish we had longer. Ant Morse there, author and fractional AI advisor. Quick break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there and a good evening. It is Petrie here with you. I just want to say a very quick hello to my lovely driver who took me to the hospital today, who I think by now is in bed with his wife. watching this programme, because he told me that's what he did. So hello and thank you, and it was lovely to meet you. So I just went, and to your mum, of course, who sent me her love. So that's really great. Carry on watching. We need you. So thank you very much indeed for being a wonderful, wonderful driver. Listen, coming up at midnight, of course, it is your chance to talk back. And it is called the Talkback Hour because that's exactly what we want you to do. It is a full hour of just you and me. And the conversation I want to have with you is a bit different to what we normally do, but I think that's good to shake it up sometimes, is about AI and the fear of AI. So I want to know from you, what does the future look like to you? Because it's already kind of here. NVIDIA, the boss at NVIDIA, is saying that, you know, there'll be these robots taking over this year. This year. AI is growing exponentially. The guardrails are off in the United States. Threats to other countries who put guardrails on of bigger tariffs. So a lot of countries are going, oh, we better not interfere with that then. So I just wonder what you see the future as looking like. And for me, the biggest worry is the idea of techno-feudalism. The idea that we have to pay for absolutely everything to a few overlords, like serfs used to do back in the day here when feudalism was around. I mean, in a sense, it already is, but it still is, because we're all in pay by the master, right? But at least we've got choices, and there won't be that many choices for us to make in the very near future. So give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Maybe you love the idea and you think it's going to be great. I'd love to talk to you about it as well. Another quick break, but back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, right now on Talk it's Petrie, and a prominent criminal who supplied thousands of small boats to people smugglers in the English Channel has been jailed in Belgium today. The man, named Adam Savas, was listed by the National Crime Agency as a most wanted man and described as the most significant supplier to gangs over a period of 5 years. The Turkish national has been sentenced to 11 years in prison and a fine of €400,000. That's around £346,000. Joining me to discuss this now is Graham Wetton, who is a crime and policing commentator and author of How to Be a Police Officer. Graham, thank you so much for joining me. One question that occurred to me, I mean, I know he was a prolific across in the mainland of Europe, but isn't this a British crime? Should he not have been tried and sentenced in Britain?
Evening, Petrie. Yeah, possibly, but I think a lot of the offences, a lot of his smuggling of boats and engines was done on the continent. So although he was supplying, my understanding anyway, although he was supplying boats and engines, they were being supplied in Europe.
Right.
So from Europe to come to the UK. So that's why the National Crime Agency works in conjunction with the European counterparts to, one, identify him, and two, then locate him. He was arrested or located in the Netherlands and then extradited to Belgium, where I think the bulk of his operation was being run from. So that's why, my understanding, that's why it was tried in Belgium, heard in Belgium, and he's been convicted and imprisoned in Belgium.
Will this make any difference to the overall picture of the smuggling gangs?
Well, I would imagine he's probably been replaced already as the lead of whatever organised crime group he was working for, because that's another. He was also convicted of being a member of an organised crime group, and because of the hierarchy, the tiers in those organisations, highly likely to have been replaced already by one of his underlings. Will it make a difference? I think the deterrent factor, the possible deterrent factor, may do. It may have made an impact on their criminal operation, shut down some suppliers, shut down some warehouses and premises, etc. So, slowly but surely, the law enforcement agencies in Britain and across Europe are having an impact on some of these smuggling gangs. And I think the message, maybe slowly, will start getting out to people that if you engage in this sort of behaviour and conduct, eventually the law enforcement agencies will track you down, will arrest you, and you will be convicted and face, and that's a fairly significant sentence, 11 years.
The thing is, I always look at these gangs and the behaviour and their structure like the drug cartels, right? And they know that what they're doing is illegal. They know that what they're doing will get them into trouble, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. It doesn't stop them. It doesn't, because there's too much money to be made from what they create in this human suffering.
Yeah, fair point, and you're right to highlight that. Clearly, it's a very lucrative business, smuggling people across Europe. They earn an awful lot of money from it. The attraction to do it probably outweighs the deterrent factor of arrest, imprisonment for a significant number of years. But that's all the law enforcement agencies can effectively do, is to try and shut down parts of an operation by arresting people, closing down premises, identifying suppliers, and trying to close the source of all these boats and the engines down, and that's part of the objective. The punishment factor of imprisonment won't deter many of the people involved in these groups, but actually just shutting down some of their avenues and sources of boats, engines, and premises that they're running from eventually starts closing them down. That's like the best they can hope for in this respect. Is it going to stop all of them doing it? Probably not, because, as I said, there's a hierarchy in these organisations. They're looking to progress all the time, and it's like a life of crime. You're right to link it with, and very often in policing, law enforcement, it wasn't just the possession of drugs that was the ideal for us. It was trying to get the suppliers, identify the suppliers, get the suppliers off the street. And it's the same, basically, in simplistic terms, it's the same principle here, trying to get the suppliers of the boats.
But the problem is that the boats themselves are not illegal. It's the use of them that is illegal. So even if you track down a supplier, I'm hard pushed to see how you can accuse them of any criminal activity, especially if they claim ignorance.
And they will claim ignorance, but I think it's a long and lengthy process. It's a detailed investigative process that the law enforcement agencies have to go through, working in conjunction with each other. as in this case, across Europe, which can be significant distances, but literally tracking the boats and the engines to a supplier and then seeing where they're going with those. And if they end up smuggling people and then arresting them. But that is and sometimes it takes a lot of patience and some time, in this case over 5 years, to identify these people, track them down, link them with a significant number of dinghies and inflatable boats and engines, and then seeing where they're being taken to. And if they are being used to smuggle people across the channel, that's when we can arrest them and charge them.
But these, again, like I say, these boat suppliers, it would be so difficult to, like, if somebody buys a car, the salesperson isn't responsible if that car is then used in a smash and grab or in a drink driving death, right? No. I'm just trying to legally, I mean, I haven't got a legal brain, but I'm trying to sort of join the dots as to how the police make a case in that case.
The case comes from what it's used for in the end, and you're right to almost like use that analogy. That what's it going to be used for in the end? If it is going to be used to smuggle people, that's where the offence takes place. But to actually own a dinghy, an engine, there's no offence.
Or to sell one, indeed.
No, or to sell one. But that's why, as I said, it can be quite a painstaking and patient process where you're literally, and again, it's the individuals you're dealing with. So what you know about the individual, it's not just somebody buying a boat, it's somebody who's known to have links with an organised group that has links to people smuggling. So it's almost like putting a jigsaw puzzle together. He's part of an organised crime group. They have links to people smuggling, and they are buying significant numbers of dinghies and engines. And it's almost a 2 and 2 does equal 4 in that scenario, because they're not buying them to hire them out for joyrides on the channel or something. They are literally using them for criminal enterprises. And that's part of the long and detailed investigation process that the law enforcement agencies have to go through.
Is there anything smarter, in your view, that they could be doing?
It's difficult to say because, as you rightly pointed out, initially it can start off as an innocent transaction. You have to identify the people involved, what links they've got, what you know about them, and what they're likely to do with whatever it is they bought. They suddenly turned into running dinghy rides on a boating lake or something. Yeah. So, and again, you've then got to convince a prosecutor and a court that it's for criminal enterprises. So it is quite difficult. It's a patient process they have to go through. It's very little they can do apart from what they are doing, but they're clearly working very closely together. Can
we insist, though, for example, it's just popped into my head, that every boat that is sold dinghy-wise has a tag on it? A tracking tag. I mean, they're so easy to hide now and easy to put into places that something like that would be a more intelligent way of tracking what these boats are used for.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, technology is advancing all the time. Law enforcement agencies are looking at how they can use technology, or technology can be used to prevent some crimes being committed. So it may well be they're already looking at technological options to put tracking devices on these things. But again, organised crime groups know about this. They know how to bypass some of these systems. We have it with, an analogy, with stolen vehicles that get taken with tracking devices on. They get to a port and the tracking devices are immobilised, and then they're shipped to abroad. You never see them again. Same with mobile phones. Yeah. So they do know how to get around these. Technology is advancing, and law enforcement agencies are using technology to great effect. Whether they can do that for boats in this case, I think they probably find a way around it very quickly.
Yeah, I don't have a criminal mind. That's my problem.
Nor do I.
A tag would stop me. I'd be like, oh, no, I better not. It's great to meet you, Graham. Thank you very much indeed. I hope we get to speak again. Graham Wetton there, who is a crime and policing commentator and author of a book called How to Be a Police Officer. John Boothman is with us in just a moment to discuss PMQs. It's not as dull as you think.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. Just a reminder that coming up at the top of the hour is Amy Fisher to go through the front pages of the papers for tomorrow. But joining me now is a man who usually does that, but we've got him here with his very much political hat on, political correspondent at the Sunday Times in Scotland, the wonderful John Boothman. A very good evening to you, John. Lovely to see you as ever. Happy New Year, I guess.
Happy New Year, yeah. It's good to be still around.
yeah, and you've been on holiday.
I've been in Lisbon for a week. A different New Year from the usual Scottish New Year. A wee bit warmer, but walking up and down lots of hills.
Oh, but still, you can't stay away from hills, you Scots, can you? You love them.
That's it.
You love them. Almost as much as you love politics. Let's turn to PMQ's first one of the year. And there are some commentators saying it was a real low-grade, not very punchy PMQs. What did you make of it?
Look, you know, Keir Starmer ain't a very punchy man, and I think he has some good fortune, although she's been better in recent months, being opposed by Kemi Badenoch, and Ed Davies, another person who doesn't often, as we say in Scotland, set the heather on fire. I think what's very important, though, is the context of this. You know, there's 11 weeks till the elections in England, Scotland and Wales, and all of these PMQs are going to be quite important in relation to how the public views Keir Starmer. He's the most unpopular Prime Minister ever, the opinion polls tell us. And, you know, this might be his last 11 weeks. At least that's the gossip around even Labour MPs at Westminster.
This is why he's starting all these things off now with this rather dull list of all the marvellous achievements that Labour has made in the last year, which I'm not sure anybody is buying what he's selling at this point. But today's PMQs was unusual in a regard because most of it appeared to be international stories, and we know that there's so much going on internationally at the moment, and Kemi Badenoch, you know, pinning him down to a point on his signing of this declaration that British troops will be given to Ukraine for peace and defence.
Yes, I mean, I think all of this is very interesting. Look, between Starmer and Badenoch, though, there's a lot of unity around the principles around this stuff about Ukraine, for example. There's obviously arguments about details. It was interesting to me that Starmer started off by talking about Nigel Farage, who said that he was opposed to the deal to put any boots on the ground in the event of a ceasefire in Ukraine. So he got his go in at that at the beginning, and then had a bit of a ding-dong with Kemi Badenoch, quite low-key, as you say, over, you know, what the details of this would be. I kind of felt a bit for Starmer in relation to it, because you can't really be telling the opposition at this point, when there's not even a ceasefire, and you wouldn't want to anyway, what the details of how many troops you would put on the ground and where they would go. Well, really for fear of telling the Russians exactly what you would be doing.
But we did get an assurance from him, at least, that putting boots on the ground would go to a Commons vote.
Yes,
and I think that is really, really important, because I don't think he should arbitrarily make those decisions. But what if they vote against him, and they very well could, on the principle of British soldiers being used in this regard? He's already signed this you know, it's going to make him look an absolute fool.
I think he's got enough of a majority in the House of Commons that won't happen. Look, I think...
He can't whip people into that decision, though, surely.
I don't think he will, right? But I think he should be OK in that. I just think the bigger thing about this, and this is something that bedevils all of us, right, in terms of looking at any of this, is just how unpredictable it all is.
True.
You know, for any politician, and that, this has not just been sympathetic about Starmer. It's, the current situation. You don't know, as we've said many times before, what side of the bed Donald Trump's going to wake up in the morning. We've had a situation where, the Prime Minister's trying to delicately plot some kind of path through this. On the one hand, he's got the Europeans, right? We are not part of the European Union. The other hand, he's trying to keep close to America. We've had today, really, he's been opposing Trump over Greenland. He's welcomed the end of Maduro, but not the way that Trump did it.
But he stopped short of calling it an international crime, which it is.
Sure, and we've also then had, curiously, really today, tonight, assisting the Americans to take over a Russian ship in the high seas, and I'm not sure what international law might say about that.
Russia's already called it piracy.
It just makes it very, very difficult, right? And I think I do have some sympathy for Starmer in this case about how you really plot your way through all of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a quagmire, isn't it? And nothing compared to the state we'll be in if Greenland is taken by Trump at all.
I mean, we had this kind of conversation. We've all been having this conversation, in the past year and a bit since Trump took over. Everybody just thought it was a bit of a joke that he would be taking over Greenland, and now we are talking about the genuine possibility of a military force being used by America against an ally of America in NATO to take over, an island that they've controlled for many, that's been in their control, for centuries.
And also Canada is very nervous as well, because he's made jokes about Canada, and apparently they're gearing up as well. Different interesting times, and like you said, it is difficult for Keir Starmer to. I do accept that, but still, it's there's a lot that he could be doing here as well. One story that I saw today, John, which made me smile actually, is it's not so much to do with PMQs, but Scottish MPs. We're calling each other idiots now, apparently. The Scottish are calling Keir Starmer and his people idiots, and I mean, what was this children's hour?
Well, if you're in the Labour Party, I think somebody said to me today, we're all idiots now. Again, the Labour Party in Scotland's got itself into a difficult position in this. For the first time on Monday, as part of his kind of mini-election launch for the election in May, Anna Sarwar, the Scottish Labour leader, started to distance himself a bit from Keir Starmer, to accept that Starmer had made a load of mistakes, to kind of try and plot a campaign that was around, what the Scottish Labour Party wanted to do, and saying this election is all about, in Scotland, what happens in the Scottish Parliament and not about what Westminster does, and that's the way he can defeat the SNP. Now, a number of Labour MPs have suggested sotto voce behind the bike sheds. None of them are named out there in public, that it would be better if they got rid of Starmer. Starmer's that people then in retaliation calls them idiots, and then what happens is Anas Sarwar's got to come in having really tried to distance himself on Monday from Starmer and support Starmer today. So it's all a bit of a mess, and as I say, for all of those people in the Labour Party in Scotland, they all feel like idiots today.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, with those the elections and all of those tests for Starmer coming up in, I can't believe it's 11. When you say 11 weeks, it just sounds so close, doesn't it? I mean, he must be shaking in his boots, let alone boots on the ground.
Well, it's a big thing, certainly in Scotland. you know, Anas Sarwar's now, I think he's in his 5th year in office. He did a great job for Labour in defeating the SNP at the general election. You know, the SNP lost nearly, 40 of its MPs. You know, he's kind of brought back Labour from a position where they were in life support. And now, because of the disastrous 18 months of Keir Starmer's government, Labour's back where it was before Anas Sarwar started. And what they then face is the possibility of another 5 years of the SNP, which has already been in power since 2007. And people shouldn't be in any doubt. There's no great love in Scotland for the SNP. They are...
But slightly more than for Labour. That's the thing,
they
isn't
are
it?
the least worst option. And
John.
that's the way it is.
Thank you. Well, that's where we always end up, isn't it? Amy Fisher's next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very, very good evening. It is Petrie here with you through until 1 o'clock. And of course, coming up at midnight, it is your opportunity to talk back. And what I want to ask you, what does the future look like to you? And this is in regards of AI and robotics and the fact that they've been let off the chain now. It's happening. And when I say the future, I don't really mean the future as in, I used to watch these dystopian movies, I love them, and go, I'll be long gone by then. It's here, it's now, it's happening. The boss of NVIDIA says there'll be these autonomous robots roaming around doing jobs this year. This year. I thought it was years and years and years away. No. And as AI gets more intelligent and starts teaching other AI and teaching itself and doing all of those things, that is growing exponentially as well. We've got all those deep fakes, fake news, fake everything. We don't know what's going on anymore. And can we believe our own eyes? And that was also in 1984. It's a book you haven't read. You need to read it. But it is an extraordinary look to the very near future now. and this new idea of techno-feudalism, where we are in hock to very few, very powerful tech companies. And it's already happening now. We're seeing it now that you can't do certain things unless you're online. You can't, you can't use your bank account properly unless you've got online banking. You can't, all of these things that we're just doing for convenience now, and they're free now. The plan is to get us so hooked on it and so reliant on it that we then start having to pay, and that's where the feudalism part comes into it. So we're all renting our lives from these tech giants, a few of them, a handful of these powerful companies that are already, in a sense, running the world. You just look at Elon Musk and all the satellites that he's putting up, and there's no doubt that well, not his, the people he's bought the satellite technology from is absolutely brilliant, and they're able to put satellites up in the air whenever they want to now. It's cheaper, it's easier, all of those things. So he gets more and more contracts, then all the power with satellites and switching them on and switching them off is in the hands of Elon Musk. The same with Palantir, with data. They've now just got a massive defence contract. And if you think that America is selling weapons to countries without an off button that they can press, or a sabotage button that they can press, then you're out of your mind. We are not buying just a gun, we're buying weaponry with really intense technology embedded into it that's probably spying on us, that's probably, that can turn itself against us should America choose to do that, or any nation choose. I use America because it's one of the biggest defence suppliers in the world. So all of these things, we're just sort of blindly letting them happen. They don't, because we don't understand it very much. We don't get it. We don't really understand this. Well, I don't. Anyway, perhaps you do. But that's what I want to talk to you about, is what does the future look like to you? Do you see it as a dystopian hellhole, where we're all under the cosh of these few tech companies? Or do you see it, as many people try to sell it to us, as opportunity for us to all to take up ballet and painting and cooking and designing, and we're all going to get a universal salary to live our lives in luxury or semi-luxury? Which one do you see? I know which one I see, and it's probably the most realistic version. But what do you see? Maybe you are somebody who loves technology and you just think, no, this is amazing. And yes, AI is doing some amazing, incredible things, particularly with medicine. But there are no guardrails around this stuff, right? AI is already lying to us. It's taught itself to lie, by the way. It wasn't that it was taught to lie and it's just echoing that. It lied. There's also an AI system that was going to be switched off or not used anymore, and it started to blackmail the owner of that. So it's learning the worst of humanity by itself. And the more it gets to know about humanity, the worse it's going to get, because let's face it, human beings are pretty revolting creatures. So that's what I want to talk to you about. And it's a very different phone-in that we normally have. It's just kind of what we think is going to be happening. I'd love to hear from you on this. 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do get to call you back straight away. Text the word talk and your message to 87222. Let me know what you think. Do you fear it? Are you looking forward to it? Does the advancement of AI and robots scare or thrill you? I mean, ugh. And can you spot fake news? Like I said earlier on, when there's a fake person talking, I can't intellectualize that it's fake. It's a gut feeling, and that worries me. Because we should know, right? We should know that it's fake, but I just get a little gut feeling, nah, it's not real. That's not real. I'm sure of it. So I'd love to hear from you what you think about this. With me in the studio, I'm thrilled and delighted as ever to say, is Amy Fisher, former Director of Comms for the Conservative Party. I saw you nodding to some of the points that I was making there. This idea of techno-feudalism it's a word that I've recently come across, but it's put into frame exactly what I think about the future of technology.
All of this is not just as you've characterised it there, but all of it is totally terrifying, because we're basically talking about the plot of the Terminator films from sort of...
But then people call it hysterical.
Exactly, the late 80s when, Skynet. I mean, everyone knows Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, that was, big guy going around shooting everything. But actually the sort of big plot behind all of it was Skynet, this computer system that had become self-aware, that had then, sent the Terminators quite literally back to the future to kill the people that were going to turn them off. And I say, no, but... Yeah. It's got a bit convoluted in me trying to remember the plot of, as I say, a sort of Hollywood blockbuster, but it's basically what you've described is computer systems created by humans becoming self-aware or teaching themselves enough about human nature to sort of replicate it or imitate it in some way. And again, as you said, human nature can be not very nice. So the whole sort of thing is terrifying. And I was sort of nodding along at particular bits because I used to be a sort of huge techie person. I worked for Google, probably getting on for about 20 odd years ago now, when Google was very much, do no evil. It was the sort of primary colours. It was, the search engine that everyone was excited about. And so I started working for them, where they're not long had a major base in the UK, and it was so exciting, and it, really quite literally cutting edge technology. And I remember then just being terribly frightened some days by what the company was doing. I can give a couple of specific examples, but in the generality, I could never quite tell whether it was me being a slightly sort of stiff upper lippy Briton, and so whether it was a clash of kind of maybe British and then very sort of cheerleading kind of American culture, whether maybe that was one part of it. Then also I was the job that I've been taken on to do was sort of look at policy implications, which involved me working a lot actually with engineers, and sometimes speaking to the engineers who would get terribly excited about an algorithm or a thing that they could do. Yeah. Because they could do it because it was possible, right? Like engineers generally tend to be in tech or kind of medicine, tend to be like this. They find a way to do something, and the capability of the doing it is so thrilling to them. They don't think about any knock-on effects. Yeah. So a very specific example of that, as I say, 20 years ago, was when they'd come up with this great kind of whizzy thing of Street View, which I don't know if anybody, still uses that on kind of Google Maps, but you could literally drill down, and if you're needing directions or you're walking down a road, you could literally get the street view of it. Now, the way at the time that Google was collecting all that data, and perhaps some listeners may remember even seeing them, was they literally had like Google cars driving around the streets with cameras on. And okay, great as a map capability, and I myself am not a brilliant direction sort of person, so anything visual like that, on the one hand, totally cool, made freely available, all of this kind of thing. But not one of these engineers, and these were teams of kind of hundreds in the UK, because it was the UK that first rolled it out properly, because obviously smaller scale, better to do than kind of in the States or anywhere else, hadn't given a single thought to any of the privacy issues around, somebody's house, literally the address of your house. And
there are images still out there of people coming out of their houses.
Exactly. Yeah. And then there were some really bad examples of literally a car would, these were real life examples that I dealt with in the policy team in the UK of, a car going past would literally have filmed like a mugging, or in one particular case, rape.
Oh my God.
And then, what should the company do with that? And as I say, just a general, driving past people coming out of their houses or coming out of their place of work. And this, this kind of stuff just hadn't occurred to the engineers.
That's worrying,
and some of those conversations, yes. And then some of those conversations were so truly terrifying, where you sort of go down to speak to them, and you sort of slightly get them so overexcited by the science and their capability, and they just thought that you were... I basically felt like a mother, sort of trying to tell, a bunch of toddlers to go home early from the party and not eat any more sweets. That was sort of how it made me feel, that I was sort of being some kind of break on just the amazing fun and the brilliance
Yeah.
of it all. I'm like, no, I'm not doing this to be boring. I'm doing this because there are very, very serious concerns that are going to literally impact upon people's lives in a material way about what you guys are doing, you know, in your little, you know, tech rooms, not being pejorative, but you are not seeing this in a real world example. And the most worrying thing to me about this is I don't think anything has particularly changed in the tech world from my experience of, I say, 9 on 20 years ago. I think it's still the same sense.
I agree.
Well, it's the classic phrase of, you know, the Twitter man, you know, move fast and break stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. You know, it sort of became this kind of cool phrase for a while. But no, like, when stuff gets broken, there are other people who have to sort of pick up the pieces. And once, I'm so mixing a lot of metaphors, but once the genie's out of the bottle, it's very hard to put back. And that is where we have gotten ourselves with a lot of this tech stuff. Yes, very, very cool. Can be enormously helpful for advances in, you know, medicine and diagnostics and all of this kind of thing. But I worry it's kind of it's run on so quickly. It's kind of overtaken itself. It's overtaken itself and us.
Yeah. Like you said, it's the engineers who are, you know, geniuses. I mean, my neurologist is a genius, but bedside manner of Dr.
Lacking,
Mengele.
perhaps,
Yeah,
yeah.
you know, I mean, it's just awful. High-fived me when he gave me my diagnosis. But I loved him. But anyway, it's like that with, I think, with these technology people. They're so, that genius level of thinking, that they do get just so narrowed into that and excited about that, and thank goodness they exist.
They're only thinking about the possible in
Yeah.
pure terms, not the kind of the right.
Yeah.
You sort of, when you think about other, you know, it's not just what's technologically or engineeringly possible. There are all the other associated factors like societal goods. Dare I say, the morality of some of these things. I mean, haven't we just heard this week that, you know, the X platform has been absolutely admonished for sort of having this sort of
grot, undressing people,
sort of, and I mean, yeah. So just because something is possible doesn't mean it's something that should happen.
Absolutely,
that's not a logical, and that's the argument I always have with them. If they want to talk about logic, that would always be my point to them. Just because something can be done does not mean it should be. And then they'll all sort of get very kind of
because they just want to prove that it can be done.
Exactly.
It's like splitting the atom and creating the atom bomb. But the other thing is that I think the biggest concern for me is not just that there aren't guardrails, but it's just how few people hold this power over us, and that power is concentrating more and more into fewer and fewer hands, and there is no suggestion of breaking these monopolies up. There is and it's too late now to do so anyway. If you look at the satellite technology I was talking about with Elon Musk, it's too late. It's too late. He's got them all up in the sky already. He's putting a new one up every week or every day or whatever it is, and it's brilliant. But then they'll all be connected. And then he alone has the power to say, "Well, I don't like that country. I'm going to switch
them off. Literally switch them off."
Once they get you addicted, it's like a drug supply. You know, a drug dealer will give you. This is a good example, actually. It's just popped into my head. They'll give you drugs to try for free, right? A bit of heroin, a bit of coke, or whatever it is.
Gateway or
Gateway.
something.
But no, but the hard stuff. I mean, you might be smoking weed, but they'll go, "Oh, try it. Have a little try. Have it for free. Have it on me." And they get you hooked on it, and then they come back and charge you because you've got nowhere else to go. And that's how I see it going in the future, is that we're getting these things for free at the moment. We're told in lots of cases they're optional until they're not. And then when they're no longer optional, that's when they start to charge. And that's where the feudalism comes into play. And it's a few men that will hold the power of that over the globe.
I totally agree. And I'm sort of going to double down on the depressingness of it by saying, yes, there are the Elon Musk, literally like a handful of people who control all of those levers
Bezos,
that you were talking
Palantir
about.
Boss,
but then
Nvidia.
Palantir terrifies me, by the
Me
way.
too.
They've not only got the defence contract, they've got a couple of NHS ones which have sort of slipped through quite quietly, and it's only if you sort of
terrifying
dig through that.
Well, they're after our stuff to implement an insurance model. That's why.
So to double down on the depressingness of that, upon which we both agree, actually there's probably another very small handful of kind of mainly men who own the hacking capability to shut this lot down. So, I mean, maybe that's the check and balance. Either way, it's not particularly reassuring that there are the guys who are controlling access to all of these things. But as I say, there is another bunch of guys who have the power, you know, the Russias, the sort of Chinese of this world, should they choose to do so, I think probably could quite easily shut us down. That just because we've been talking sort of quite big picture, you know, satellites in the sky and all the rest of it. What really scares me, and I know I'm guilty of doing it, but what really scares me is when you see anybody under the age of about 30, or a group of people under the age of about 30, when they literally sit
they've been groomed.
Yes.
They've been groomed by the tech giants.
I mean, pop to a cafe tomorrow and you'll see, you know, maybe like 4 or 5, you know, anybody under 30, you know, all sitting there having, you know, in a coffee shop. They won't be talking to each other. They'll all be sitting there kind of in their individual silos, you know, scrolling through. Now, look, I get it on public transport. They say, you know, if I'm on the bus, I sit on my phone the whole time reading the news or whatever. Like, I get it. But it's when in very social situations, no one's actually socialising.
No, I see people out to dinner
no one's
together.
actually talking to each other. They're just literally going on to the next, you know, whatever it's saying on Reddit or
bands,
whatever.
not even allowed on the table with me unless you've got a child. And that you might be contacted about that, a young child.
Oh, I thought you were going to do the parents' classic of a screaming child. Just take the tablet.
Yeah, no.
That's what I thought you were referring to. Unless it's the child, in which case, definitely give the child a bit of technology.
No, I mean, definitely not. Take them home if they're screaming. We don't want to see them. Nobody likes your children as much as you do. I'm just saying.
Completely agree with
that. I'm just saying. Quick break, and Amy and I'll be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you, and with me is Amy Fisher, former Director of Comms for the Conservative Party. The Times newspaper. I mean, this world is changing so quickly on a geopolitical level. It's head-spinning. It really is head-spinning. The UK joins in the pursuit of Putin's shadow fleet, and America now warning that wherever in the world these ships are, they will be seized and returned to America. And I think we supplied support for this, spy aircraft and Royal Navy support, but of course that nuance is not going to mean anything to Russia. As far as they're concerned, we were part of this.
Yes, and it's also, I mean, I'm just still not quite clear on exactly what level. I mean, are we talking about helping with some refueling or exactly. So some outlets have been reported passive support, which is basically we were kind of around, as I say, maybe helping with refueling. That's quite different from any more tactical, hands-on, if you want to put it. So there's that.
There is some concern that for this particular ship, that the American planes took off from UK bases.
This is what I mean. It's not at all clear at what level of support.
And they would have had to have come from UK bases.
Anything was given. Now, look, I mean, the ship does seem pretty dodgy. It's changed names sort of 5 times in 5 years, which isn't sort of allowed, particularly if you're kind of mid-crossing, but there's no point me trying to get into the niceties or otherwise of international maritime law. What I am going to say, because obviously when I heard this news, I got immediately terrified and sort of, is this a flashpoint? Are we, getting ever closer to the 3 minutes to midnight of some sort of nuclear war? And then I sat back and I sort of thought, this is not as scary as it first seems, because it's obviously sort of a follow-up to Trump's taking over Venezuela, which is kind of madness, but invading Venezuela. But just that this is then the follow-up and about his wanting to control the oil supply of Venezuela, and then obviously he's been making these very aggressive remarks about taking over or buying or just taking over Greenland, all of which the breaking of, as far as I can make out, kind of international law and what he did in Venezuela.
He's going to find it hard to argue that was in defence.
Correct. The taking over, as he's been saying, he wants to have Greenland. I mean, it's a direct assault on NATO, right? I mean, Greenland, Denmark, we're closest ally. So actually...
And Stephen Miller saying, well, nobody's going to bother attacking us over it. We're fine. We can do what we like. We're a superpower.
But my point is, I'm sure Putin is probably actually kind of fine with all of this, because everything that Trump is doing... It is kind of forcing ever greater fractures.
He's going to love it.
Within Europe. So this is what I mean. So whilst when I initially heard this, I was like, oh my God, is this literally the start of 3 minutes to midnight? I then thought, no, Putin's perfectly happy to sacrifice one slightly random ship that may or may not have been being guarded by a Russian submarine, that we don't kind of really know whether it was there or not as some kind of escort to this dodgy ship that had changed names 5 times in 5 years. Anyway, Putin is perfectly happy to let this one ship go for all of in the bigger picture of kind of staying friendly with his mate Trump, who's doing more to break up and destabilise the unity there has been against the Eastern Bloc post-Second World War through the Cold War. So look, he's not going to fall out with Trump over this random ship.
No, except that this is it is in itself is one small thing, like you say. In itself, it's not scary, but when you mix all those ingredients together, like
it's all bigger picture scary.
But then you get something really quite poisonous, and a lot of people will be annoyed and upset that we are yet again kowtowing to America. I mean, literally being the poodle, doing what we're told. There's more planes coming into the UK bases. They're building up their defences on British soil, and I hope that's got nothing to do with Denmark. It's all... We've got to stop playing nice with Trump.
But if I were... anybody else in the coalition of the willing, with the big meeting that's been held about, yes, whatever basically America's going to do, we, the coalition of the willing, we are really going to stand firm with Ukraine. Had I been anybody else, Keir Starmer obviously sort of being in charge of this as well, had I been anybody else at this meeting, and then this news coming out today about the UK support for this American action, I'd be sitting there thinking, can I believe anything this dude, the UK, this dude is saying? Because on the one hand, I thought we were kind of all in it together, certainly with regards to Ukraine and, you know, kind of accepting of the fact that we can't rely on America and Trump anymore with regards to Ukraine and our security there. So, okay, fine, we've made, you know, as a bloc there, coalition of the winning, we've made, you know, some pretty bold statements on that. But then literally 24 hours later, oh right, but the UK guys were in bed with Trump the whole time, doing this quite rogue thing. As I say, if I was been anybody else at that meeting, I'd just be thinking, well, I don't know if anything the UK is saying is worth. It's like what is happening here?
I mean, there's some breaking news just come in. Prime Minister Keir Starmer set out his position on Greenland in a call tonight with the US President Donald Trump. I'm sorry, Keir, he's not going to care what you say. A spokesman for the Prime Minister said the call included a discussion about the interception of the Bella 1 tanker, sometimes called the Marinera, which involved US and UK military. I know how that conversation went. Oh, we're really happy we were able to help you, blim, blim, blim. And, oh, yes, and aren't we great allies?
Strikingly accurate, isn't it?
Yeah, strikingly accurate. I think I'll do a Keir Starmer impersonation thing, but yeah, in the future. But yeah, and then, ooh, and by the way, can you stop? Do you mind? Stop threatening Greece. Oh no, it's all right. You know, if you want to carry on threatening them, that's fine.
It's up to you.
It's up to you. It's up to you.
I've said my bit.
I don't want to upset you. Donald Trump is not going to listen to Keir Starmer.
But why don't? And again, maybe it's so sort of glaringly obvious that it's, you know, staring me in the face and I'm missing it. I don't understand how there sort of isn't a midway or some sort of point that doesn't involve Donald Trump saying either I'm going to take over Greenland or I want to buy it, because, you know, there is an American base there already.
They've got permission to build another 18.
This is what I mean. Why not put more?
Because it's not about defence. It's not about defence. It's about the minerals and the oil,
and which are obviously all now more accessible because the ice is melting. So yes, we get all of that, but. You know,
it's not about defence. It is very well defended. It's a huge landmass. He's not after protecting anybody from anything, and he could do that anyway. But as a landmass, it is very well defended because, of course, it is part of NATO, and therefore it's fine. It's not about security and defence.
Well, this was it is, because Greenland had also said, look, if you're so worried about not having enough ice cutters, basically
we'll give them to you.
Yes. They've literally said, if this is your concern, that's a weak point defensively, we will do what you want and beef that up.
Not about defence or security. Just very, very quickly, the other story on the front page, a crime spree of Met Police let through on diversity. A diversity panel at Britain's biggest police force overturned vetting refusals, which led to rogue officers and staff committing rapes, assaults and drug offences. Metropolitan Police introduced a vetting panel in 2019 after noticing that applicants who refused entry to the force were disproportionately from ethnic minority backgrounds and underrepresented groups. So this isn't saying that it is the diverse people that are creating these crimes, right? They're saying that the vetting has gone and therefore more people are coming in.
They were concerned that people from ethnically diverse groups were being turned down.
Yeah.
So the panel was then set up to look at why, and then basically overturn some of the vetting decisions, which led to some truly terrible people being let in. This story is actually covered on a couple of other front pages. One of the most egregious examples is, well, there in the sort of fourth paragraph, Cliff Mitchell, 26, a Met PC who was convicted of 13 rapes against 2 victims, one of whom was a child. Senior officers said he never should have been hired after he failed vetting. So this is the point. People were failing vetting. Vetting was saying, no, we don't want this person for X and Y and Z reason, possibly for some really serious previous offences. The board was concerned about a number of those people failing vetting, being from certain types of community, so then basically started overturning vetting decisions or postponing vetting at all.
Because as far as I think it's slightly misleading, because this is kind of saying that therefore all of the people committing these crimes were ethnic minority people who got through but all of the names that are mentioned here are all white men.
I think the particular chap that I just mentioned, it is covered somewhere out, covered on the Telegraph actually. Met Police hired black child rapist to boost diversity credentials.
I just think we need more.
It's not brilliantly written.
It's not clear, is it?
It's
really?
not brilliantly.
Because if it is the ethnic minority officers, then we need to know that. But if it's because they dropped vetting against all officers and therefore more criminals were able to come in, then that would make more sense.
I think it's not brilliantly written. I think it just goes to the wider point that certainly you and I have discussed before. Is, you know, look, the Met Police has had a terrible year, and it continues. I mean, it's had terrible year since. It was sort of David Garrick, do you remember him? The kind of armed police guy, convicted of a string of violent misdemeanors. You know, Wayne Cousins, who had a long history, even before he killed Sarah Everard, he had this long history of saying disgusting things on WhatsApp groups.
Well, he was known by his fellow officers
as a rapey or something,
as the rapist or rapey.
There is a Charing Cross police station WhatsApp group is just saying horrible things about women and homosexuals.
Taking photographs of dead bodies.
Exactly, and that was why Cressida Dick, the former head of the Met Police, had to resign. You know, and so whether this story is being particularly clearly articulated into exactly who is being vetted when, with relation to representation, underrepresentation, the Met of ethnic minorities, there's a line later down in this article in the Times, which is particularly striking. It says, senior officers who signed off decisions to dispense with reference checks and vetting are still in post, and no individual has ever been held personally accountable.
Oh, what a shock!
So look, that just goes to the shock. This is the systemicness of grot. Is that a phrase?
Yeah.
Well, it is now.
It is now.
Of the Met Police just not being able to police itself.
Yeah, if it's because they wanted more people from ethnic minority backgrounds to come in and therefore limited vetting on all officers, then that's just not acceptable. It's just not acceptable. Amy and I have got to take a quick break, but we'll be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good evening to you. This is Talk and it's Petrie here with you through until 1 o'clock, and with me, Amy Fisher, former Director of Communications at the Conservative Party. The Sun newspaper, we were just agog during the break there. And on the front page, I never thought that Martin Clunes looked anything like Hugh Edwards, but a testament to the incredible acting talent of this man. I mean, it's remarkable.
It really gave me, when your producer handed me the front page of that side, I did a real sort of when I just looked at it, I thought, oh my goodness, is Hugh Edwards suddenly back on the television? That can't be right.
Yeah.
And I actually sort of read the headline, was like, oh no, it's a drama about Martin Clunes, who, you know, I most remember from the kind of, you know, Men Behaving Badly, like the early 90s. And when he was this like gangly guy who drank like 8 pints and sort of had the red hair and the slightly sort of rubbery features, and the banter he had with Neil Morrissey, his flatmate, who was this kind of slightly sort of dopey, laid back. But then, yes, the way he's now playing Hugh Edwards in this Channel 5 two-part drama. I mean, yes, to use the word again, I mean, it's uncanny. It's the weird eyebrow, very distinctive eyebrow lift. It's the oh so familiar posture. That, as I say, when I first glanced at the front page, I actually thought it was something about Hugh Edwards coming back on television, and thank goodness it's not. But I
mean, because if you do look at one after the other, you can say, well, obviously he doesn't look like him, but he's embodied him, hasn't it?
It's the sort of sense of it.
He's, I mean, incredible. He's got the eyebrow, that, like you said, the stance that he does. I guess I do that. Actually,
I guess the proof will be in the pudding as to whether, obviously, when the show comes out, as to whether he catches that, because Hugh Edwards had this kind of. You know, he'd reported on all these, you know, big occasions, general elections, royal marriages. You know, he was the face of the BBC. Whether Martin Clunes gets that sort of gravitas combined with, maybe it's easy to say with the benefit of hindsight, I always found Hugh Edwards coldly patronising.
Oh, I did too.
Now, whether I'm saying that with the lens of knowing that he discuss horrible things going on, but like he was never a warm. He wasn't somebody that you sort of watched to get the feeling of the sense of occasion. You kind of watched it because he's on the BBC, and when something really massive is happening.
I agree. I think I found him a bit patronising as well. But yeah, it's really incredible, and it's a TV drama on the Sun investigation. They say the Channel 5 show will tell how the Sun exposed the pedo presenter's double life. Clunes, same age, at 64, mimics Edwards' eyebrows, his slick grey hairstyle, and has nailed his accent. I'm going to be watching that.
There was something quite recently about how Hugh Edwards, I think, is sort of trying to come back on the
there was
speaking circuit, was it?
Very handsome photograph.
He had a portrait taken. It was about a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, he'll definitely try and crawl his way back, but I don't think he'll. Can you imagine booking him as a speaker? No thanks. The Guardian, again, going big on the US seizes Russian flagged tanker in high-stakes Atlantic operation. And then Reeves criticises Farage for benefit cap division. What's this about?
So obviously the two-child benefit cap is being lifted, hence the enormous increase in our sort of welfare bill and the tax that we're all sort of paying. Nigel Farage seems to have suggested it should be only British-born families. I haven't actually particularly read Farage's comments in full, so I don't sort of particularly want to comment on them. What I would say is I think it's helpful for the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, to be trying to turn it into a row about sort of Britishness or ethnicity, because let's bear in mind that it was...
Yes, I mean, that's disingenuous to say.
I mean, it's disingenuous.
Poverty based on skin colour. There are plenty of people of colour who are British-born.
Yes.
That...
She's turning it into a row. This is what I mean about. She's turning it into a row about something.
It's just an attack on reform.
Exactly, and not actually any genuine criticism of perhaps the policy about the welfare bill.
I mean, she herself is a black British-born woman. I mean, it's not a clever criticism. If you're going to criticise Farage, make it clever, right? Because otherwise everybody can see through it. And it's pointless.
And then it sort of actually plays into Farage's hand as being like, you know, because his shtick is like, I'm the only guy who tells you the truth, right? So if you're having a row about the two-child benefit cap being lifted, which is not an uncontroversial thing to happen, don't try and turn it into something disingenuous over here and pretend that other people's legitimate criticisms about the welfare bill in this country aren't there, and that if you have concerns about the welfare bill, that you're a de facto racist.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is why this sort of. I mean, I'm no lover of Farage, but this is playing straight into his hands.
Exactly.
If you're going to criticise him, have a reason to criticise him, and do it properly. This is just nonsense, which everybody can see through, and just makes everybody who is a fan of Farage go, see that they're just going to attack him for no reason.
Farage's shtick is, I'm the straight talking guy, and then when somebody goes to try and criticise him over this, it's just like,
that's not what he was saying, by the way. You know, that's not what he was saying. So don't. There's plenty of stuff you can pick on, but don't pick on something that is absolutely pointless. The Daily Telegraph, Badenoch blueprint to save our pubs. I like a pub. Tories vow to cut bills and scrap taxes as MPs and celebrities back Telegraph campaign.
Well, look, I mean, I don't think anyone can be unaware of the fact that the Labour government has really, really annoyed the pub and hospitality industry, not least because a lot of pubs have banned their local MPs, Labour MPs.
I don't want to drink with local MPs.
Including the Chancellor.
Oh, actually, I do drink in the same pub as my Labour MP, Andy Slaughter. Nice guy.
Oh, he's not one of the bad ones, though.
He's a nice guy. He is. He's a sweetie.
No, so the sort of Conservatives are going on the attack about this, basically saying, well, look, this sort of part of... One of the latest things seems to be that part of Labour's driving safety plan is banning you having even 1 pint. So obviously the Conservatives are saying that's literally the death of any rural pub anywhere.
Which is nonsense, because we all know they drive without.
Well, there's that. I mean, I
around.
sort of slightly come from Suffolk, where you don't want to be in that road coming back from the golf club kind of on a Saturday night, because I'm not sure even...
I think it's very difficult to argue against dropping the drink driving. Drinking and driving is horrendous.
We just sort of don't do it. And then
just don't do it, yeah. Just don't do it. OK, should we take a break and then come back and have a look at some of the other papers?
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good evening. This is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you till 1 o'clock, and with me, Amy Fisher, former Director of Communications for the Conservative Party, looking at the Daily Mail. They've gone with all of this news around in the world, you need to be on fat jabs for life. Oxford study shows patients coming off the drugs pile pounds back on within 2 years. But I thought we knew that already, didn't we?
I mean, this is the sort of one of those headlines that goes into the box of sort of
Why?
least surprising news ever. I mean, doesn't it just sort of common sense that, okay, if you have these fat jabs, they can give you a bit of a boost and a kind of kickstart. But of course, if you stop taking them, if you haven't
It's
changed,
like if you stop dieting,
if you
put
haven't
weight back
exactly,
on.
if you haven't changed your life in any way in terms of your sort of food intake or the exercise you do. I mean, it's not just sort of, I hate this phrase, but it's like not rocket science that it's sort of not going to continue lasting.
No, if you don't fundamentally change.
I don't understand why this is a splash. I just don't
either. And it's an odd thing to do on a week like this. I just want to say that Thomas sent me a message right at the beginning of the programme, actually, and said, "Hi, Petrie, and wow, wearing black makes you look like you've been on a slimming drug. You look amazing." So I'm just gonna now. My wardrobe is just going to be black.
Well, I said to you when I came in, there was a very glam vibe going on.
It's a black roll neck because I was cold. It's been called glam. I think I look like a ninja.
Or, as I said to you, the man that delivers the milk tray.
Yeah, who was creepy even then. So thank you for that. Right, that's the Daily Mail. I'm trying to, because we're running out of time, I'm trying to choose not the same headlines that we've been through before, which is a bit difficult.
Although the Metro headline about the seizing the tankers, splash and grab, is quite good.
Splash and grab is a good headline.
We've covered the story, but
we've got to go for that. That is good. They get a tick in the box for that. That is very, very good. This plays into what we talked about. What I'm going to be talking to you about at 12 o'clock. The octopus's flair for camouflage. This is on the front page of the FT. Inspires synthetic skin that can disguise robots. As what? Disguise them as what? So, a robot that can chameleon-like hide into their background.
Seabirds, yes, or look like rocks or something.
Yeah, but these are robots they're talking about, using the same skin.
But again,
why?
But there's the why question. But also, there has been a thing. So I remember watching probably some sort of slightly strange Channel 4 documentary on it. You know, there are these, people who buy dolls that are really, really made to look like babies.
Yeah,
do you know
there's
what
a special name for them. I can't
remember what it is either. And so their skin is
real
warm
life.
to
Are they called or something?
Their skin is warm to the touch, and they sort of, flush in hotter temperatures and all of this sort of thing. So kind of,
and they flop like babies.
All of this kind of thing.
I think it's something like real life. They're called or something.
But you know the ones and they do genuinely.
They are called real life.
And they kind of breathe, and sort of their eyelids flutter and all.
Oh, reborns.
That's it.
Reborns.
And they cost
which is also something
hundreds,
from Terminator.
Yes, and they cost like hundreds, if not thousands of pounds. And
scary they are.
They've always been, as I say, I saw it as a subject of a Channel 4 documentary, like these weird people who buy this. No, this is all stuff that's now seeping out, literally into the mainstream, literally onto the front pages. This is not a niche group of people who are into some slightly weird stuff. This is now going to become increasingly ever part of mainstream, my life, your life, that of your listeners. As I say, we can barely go a day without some, related subject being on, literally the front page and the Financial Times of all places. This is not a sort of Daily Mail scare story. This is...
this is on the FT.
Yeah.
And it's just the synthetic skin changed appearance within about 20 seconds of the application of water, switching back to its original form as it dried. Scientists say their creation could be used for encryption, dynamic artworks and displays. It could also enable truly Cephaloid-like camouflage in robots. Why do you want to camouflage a robot?
The most benign bit of that sentence was the fact it might be used for dynamic artwork.
Yeah.
I'm almost certainly guaranteeing that's not going to be its primary
That's not going to be a thing, no. But I don't know why. In what world do you want a robot that can be camouflaged? I suppose in war, if you're using them for fighting.
Exactly. I mean, that's not, you know, a benign sort of art thing. And the final paragraph of the story says, the research might one day enable smart skins that instantly adapt to any situation, getting closer to Harry Potter's invisibility cloak.
Nothing can go wrong with that.
No, I mean, that's got
Can't imagine anything
for it.
that hasn't got burglary, rapist, murderer written all over it at all. I mean, that does fall into the category of this technology that we're talking about. Why?
Yes, and the insanity of sort of likening it to a sort of, you know, children's character, Harry Potter.
Yes, Harry Potter, ha ha ha.
Well, no, literally my mind and clearly yours went to the same place of like gift to a rapist.
Yeah, gift
for
to a burglar.
Gift to a burglar.
But you see, this is why you get dogs.
Oh, because they would
know.
still be able to sense them.
They'd know. I mean, Humphrey is particularly angry with anybody that walks on the street.
I don't mean to be, but isn't Humphrey your tiny, very...
Yes, but he sounds bigger.
Okay.
They do sound bigger.
I get the sounding
when they
bigger,
appear at the
but
door,
isn't he
it's
like
not
a
very
sort of
scary.
slightly fluffy, kind of cuddly, adorable, but not...
Not huge.
I wouldn't describe as looking like an attack dog.
No. But then you're not the cat.
No, okay, well... Yep.
Mind you, she's better at being an attack dog than the cat is. The cat's better at being an attack dog than the dog is. Right, the Daily Express. I haven't been watching this new Traitors. Oh, we should have blacked that out because there will be people who are watching it. So I won't mention that. But I haven't been watching this new series because it's too close to the celebrity one, which I really enjoyed.
And you always ask me about television shows, and I never watch any of them unless it's EastEnders.
Yeah, and no, because I also have a commitment phobia. So I can't really commit long term to TV shows.
Okay.
So I'd probably only watch the first season or the first one and then.
So you've never made it the whole way through The Sopranos, or
God no.
Oh goodness.
No, I am a commitment phobe.
Okay.
On most levels. So Daily Express, don't run down the clock on safe right to die law. This has gone away, and it's very depressing that it's gone away because it felt like steps were really being made to the what I think is a basic human right of the right to die with dignity. And a lot of the people who are worried about this are worried for entirely the wrong reasons as well.
Well, look, I was sort of talking to a friend who was a peer actually at the weekend, and in fact, you know, there are, as a reference here on the front page of the Express, there are more than 1,000 proposed changes. So it's just not going to be possible.
It's going to be watered
to get
down,
through them all. But what this friend of mine said, you know, so I think I'm broadly in the same place as you. I mean, of all the important decisions you will make in your life, I think being able to choose the manner and time of your own death is probably one that you should have control over. Is my view.
And not religious people who believe that that's against the...
And that was the view, as I said, the peer that I was speaking to. But he did say, but when I sit in the House and I hear all of these debates, I know that's my view, but I do sometimes hear things that does make me just give pause. But
then be serious about the defences and protections around it. That's all they've got to do.
The point he then went on to make, which is a sort of slightly dry run, was that it is actually sort of all going to run out of time, and it's going to basically end in a constitutional crisis where the Lords aren't going to be allowed to do what they are meant there to do, which is really scrutinised legislation. It's all going to sort of get lost or get pushed through in a weird way at the other end of the House. And he said, yes, I know that's not the point because we are talking about literally life and death, but there are some constitutional elements to this which are going to be very tricky as well.
Yeah, I just always say to people, if you don't want to choose the right to die, then if it's against your religion, then don't.
No, I know. As I
It's
say,
like if you don't agree with gay marriage, don't be gay and want to get married.
No, as I say, like aside from sort of having a child, I think probably, you know, choosing when you might wish to leave this mortal coil is the biggest decision.
I can't believe that my dogs will have a more dignified ending than I will. And that is, I mean, I'm glad that they will. If they need that, then that's what I would do for them as a last act of absolute love for them.
Kindness, yes.
And that is, I want human beings to have the same kindness and dignity. You know, there's a friend of mine with a dog at the moment who's got dementia and howling at night, and we've both said, look, it's time. And not that I think people would, but you know that the dog doesn't understand what's going on and what's happening, but we can elect that on behalf of them. Human beings would have to elect it for themselves, which is a safeguard against any mental, dementia issues. Nobody else can make that decision for you. But yeah, I hope we get somewhere on that. And just very, very briefly, the Daily Star. You can take our greens, but not our land. 2 farmers from the UK's Greenland have warned Donald Trump not to try and grab their small holdings. It's not beyond the fact of Pete Hegseth getting the wrong address.
No,
this is a Greenland in the UK.
I just, on a purely practical note, I just want to know where the Daily Star found these 2 farmers from. I don't know. Did they just like literally walk?
But I love it when this is absolutely no story and it says full story, page 4 and 5.
Brilliant.
And there isn't a story there at all. Amy, thank you very much indeed. Amy Fisher, former Director of Comms for the Conservative Party.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a very good morning to you. It is Petrie here with you through until 1 o'clock. And this morning we are having a different kind of conversation, but I find it absolutely fascinating. And the question I'm asking you is, with regards to AI and technology, what does the future look like to you? Is it a future where all the robots are doing all the grunt work, right? And we're just lounging around becoming artists and artisanal, you know, bakers and writing poetry and books. Is that the future that you see? Or is it a future of this technocracy, these tech bros ruling the world? I know which one I see, and I don't see us all sort of swanning around having a lovely life, but I could be wrong. Unfortunately, I will be around to see it. Well, because the future is here. It's already here, and I thought that these robots that we've been talking about were way in the future, way in the future, but no. Have a listen now to Jensen Huang, who is the Chief Executive Officer of NVIDIA. This is what he has to say.
When do you think we're going to get robots that actually have human-level capabilities?
Next year, because I know how fast the technology is moving. Locomotion is hard, but that's making incredible progress. And so, you know, we're going to have really great reasoning AI models that are resident inside the robot. And so the robot will be able to reason and very quickly. Having robots will create jobs. And the reason for that is, number one, as you know, we have a labor shortage in the world, not by 1,000 or 2,000 people, by tens of millions of people. And it's going to get worse because population decline. And so we no longer, as a population, will be able to sustain the economies that we would like to have. And so we need to have more, you know, if you will, AI immigrants to help us.
That was that interview, which I watched a fuller version of it earlier, was done in last year. So he does correct himself, actually. In the longer interview, he says next year, and then he goes, well, this year. So this year, humanoid robots, they're coming. They're here. They're here. This isn't some sci-fi movie anymore. This isn't something that you think, oh, it's so far away, I don't need to worry about that. That'd be for other generations to worry about, which is what I've always believed. No, this is now. And there's a new term, there's a new book actually, Yanis Varoufakis, who's a Greek economist. He says that we are witnessing an epochal shift, and that we're looking at techno-feudalism. So we all know what feudalism is, right? That was the system under which a very few rich people owned all the land and owned all the properties and owned everything. And then they rented it to us in order for us to have very basic lives. So we were in hock to them. We weren't allowed to own anything. And if you listen to some people talking about the future, that's exactly the model that a lot of these giants want to have. They want us to not own anything and therefore to rent everything and be under the control. A lot of people, for example, don't own their cars at the moment, right? You rent them on this hire thing. I mean, a lot of people have said to me, why don't you do that? Get a new car every 3 years? And I'm like, there's something fundamental in my soul that tells me that I have to own my car. I don't want it to be owned by somebody else, right? I don't like that idea. And techno-feudalism is literally the same premise, where a few tech companies own us, basically, that our lives are rented and controlled by them, from them. So, again, for example, you know, you're told that these ID cards, we'll think, well, we don't, these digital ID cards that I hope will be thrown out, that to begin with, it'll be not voluntary. We've been told they're mandatory, but, you know, a few people won't need to have them. But if you actually want to run your life, you will have to have them. So you will have to have them. There's no question about it. It's like online banking. A lot of people say, I was totally against it. I'm not going to do online banking. And then all the banks around me closed and I wanted to pay some money in, or I wanted to move money around, or I wanted to do something and I couldn't do it. And I got the app and I love it. It's so convenient. I can pay my bills. I can do all of those things. Now, at the moment, that's free. It won't be, because once it's like a drug dealer, right? A drug dealer, maybe you're there and you're smoking a bit of weed, right? And you go and buy your weed from a dealer, and then your dealer will go, have you tried this little bit of heroin here, or a little bit of cocaine, or whatever other drugs are around at the moment? I'm not very up on drugs. But, and you say, well, no, I can't really afford it. They go, that's all right. You can have it for free. How about that? You can have it for free. How lovely am I? And then they get you hooked on it. And at some point, you need them. You need it. And that's when they start charging you. And that's how I equate technology at the moment, these AI tools, all of this lovely free stuff that we're being given, all this lovely free ability to make our lives more convenient. And then we get hooked on it. And then they start charging. And a lot of people say, no, nobody will pay. Nobody will pay. Don't look at X. You know, if you want certain things, you want, or even companies like Netflix or Amazon Prime, any of them, they get you hooked onto something that you pay one fee for, and then they reduce what that fee pays for, and then offer you the chance to get exactly what you paid for before, but for more money. Like with Netflix, adding adverts, and then saying, but if you want it advert free, you can pay this extra money for it. Well, I used to get it advert free before for the same money. You've taken that away from me, and now you want to charge me more for what I had before. Is that making sense? Anyway, that's what I mean, and that's what concerns me. And what concerns me the most about AI, you know, other than it taking over and robots killing us or whatever it is, I mean, that is a concern, of course, is that all of that power, all of that technological power will be in the hands of very few people, of very few men. Not that should be an out-and-out concern, but men like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, or what's the one from Facebook? Oh, Mark Zuckerberg. Weirdest bloke. I mean, I think he's already a robot. I'm not entirely sure he's human. Have you seen his face? Doesn't move. Weird. Anyway, what do you see as being the future? Am I being too much of a doom monger? Am I too concerned? I mean, I've literally just bought Janos's book this evening. Another way to keep myself awake at night, reading about techno-feudalism. But I think it's stuff that we need to know, right? It's probably important. It's probably important. Anyway, I'd love you to tell me what you think. 0344 499 1000, calls charged at national rate, and you can text as well, put the word talk and then your message to 87222. And it was really interesting because I went to the hospital, had my lovely driver taking me to the hospital, who was very sweet. He's probably fallen asleep by now. But anyway, hello if you're not. And then when I came back from the hospital, I got into a black cab, and I was chatting to the driver in the black cab. Really nice guy, actually. And out of nowhere, we started talking. I'm sure it was him that started the conversation. I could be wrong, about AI. And I was like, this is really. I'm talking about this tonight, and just before I got out of the cab, I said, I'll be talking about this a bit later. And then he went, oh, you're that Hosken woman, aren't you? And I said, yeah. But so it was just really interesting that people are interested, people are talking about this, and we both agreed, he and I, that it's what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Why? Just as Amy was saying earlier, just because there is some technology that we can do, it doesn't mean we should do. So that is also, it just fascinated me that was the conversation we were having, and I knew I was going to have that conversation with you this evening. So I want to continue having that conversation, because as you can tell, it really, really interests me. 0344 499 1000. So you call me and tell me I'm being silly. I mean, I am a Luddite. Right? I've never used Chat GPT, and I don't think I ever will. I'm a complete Luddite. I'm the last to any technology. I don't particularly like technology. I can't even set my own hive for my boiler. I have to switch the boiler on and off at the boiler. I'm not even joking. I can't get my head around technology, so maybe that's why I'm so scared of it. But I'd love to hear from you. So set my mind at rest or join me in this moment on technology. Either way, I'd love to hear from you, so please do get involved. Wonderful Sheldon has called from Swansea. Hello, Sheldon.
Hello, Petrie. How are you, darling? All right?
I'm very, very well. It's lovely to talk to you again.
And you, sweetheart. Now then, let's get down to the bottom line, shall we, as usual? AI. Now, any doubting Thomases regarding the future of AI out there will very quickly become doubting autonomouses, as they are going to have their autonomy taken away from them. Their capacity for critical thinking will be taken away from them. With it, it'll be the death of philosophy, theology, politics, and eventually the death of all the best in human nature. They will take our empathy, tolerance, and the capacity to love properly and deeply away.
They already are.
They will steal our humanity because it's too inconvenient for the super financial tyrants of this world who are running it. And if we carry on using it, especially our future generations, they'll be hung by their own petard.
I agree.
And they will become the very robots they think they're speaking to.
Oh, that's so well put, Sheldon. I completely agree with you. And it's not difficult to see that young people are already losing their ability for critical thinking because they're fed everything. You know, if you're spoon-fed everything, you never learn to feed yourself, right? Which is why you let toddlers loose with a spoon and they make a mess. So, but these young people, not through any fault of their own, they're just being spoon-fed, they're being groomed by AI, by these technocrats, and they will lose the ability to critically think for themselves if they haven't already. I completely agree.
The frightening thing is, to be perfectly honest with you, I think there's a generation of my own age at the moment that is losing the capacity already. Because they're looking for pat answers to very deep and disturbing problems.
Yeah. And just Googling it or asking something to tell you what to think. I always taught my son how to think, not what to think. I never told him what to think. I'd say, look, this is one side of the coin, this is another, this is the edge, this is if you look at it from a distance, and this is what you look at it close up. What do you think? You know, and I tried all the way through, even from a toddler. You know, we would talk about things, and I'd say, well, what do you think about it? I mean, often it was absolute nonsense, but it isn't anymore. He's a very, very smart critical thinker now.
Well, little ones can be very profound thinkers.
Yeah.
Because they don't have anything in the way.
They don't have the bias, do they? Yeah.
They don't have the detritus that we have. They can get straight to the point and tell you the truth, out of the mouths of babes and sucklings, etc.
But do you think that the point? This is an interesting philosophical question. Is the point to deprive us of critical thinking? Is that one of the purposes of what we're seeing at the moment?
I think they deliberately wish to take that capacity off us. Because if they can remove that capacity that we have,
we're lambs to the slaughter, aren't we?
They can destroy our humanity.
Yeah, I think they're already doing it. I genuinely think, you know, when you hear politicians in the United States saying that empathy is a weakness.
Exactly. Yeah.
Actually saying empathy is a weakness.
Well, we have prime examples at the moment in this new year of 2026, where bullying and might is right has come back into this world and trying to destabilize all the wonderful institutions that we were part of after 1948. And if this carries on, it comes in harmony with this very idea that these tech giants have. And the tyrants can use it.
They want us to be addicted and slaves to their algorithms.
Of course, yes, indeed. Indeed.
And like I said, Sheldon, it is already happening. The fake news, I can feel it. It's I can feel it as well. And the fact that people can't have discourse, people can't discuss anything anymore. You're either right or you're wrong. There's nobody going, oh, hang on a minute, I hadn't thought of that, or what about this?
There's no room for civilized debate.
No. Me and my black cab driver were saying that, exactly that. You can't have a conversation anymore with people. They get entrenched.
Of it.
And they don't like facts. Don't ever. Yep. I mean, I've got a very good friend of mine who was talking about something, I can't remember, politics. And I said, well, actually, that's not true, blah, blah, blah. And she said, don't mess up my belief with facts. Actually said that to me.
Now, this is the problem, the biggest problem we have at the moment, that when the BBC have to establish a verified department, that proves to me that nobody knows what the facts are anymore.
It's terrifying. And I always say, when people accuse me, what was it? Somebody accused me of something the other day on this show. Didn't like what I was saying. And I said, look, facts aren't emotional. You're being emotional. These are the facts. If you don't like them, that's fine. But you can't criticise me for giving you facts.
It's extremely simple. If I shoot you with a gun and you're dead, I've shot you. I've killed you. Whatever my intention was, the fact is you're dead.
Yeah. But people don't, they're inconvenient though, facts. They get in the way
of inconvenient things. Yeah, I know.
You're such a smart man, Sheldon. That's why I adore you.
I'm such a smart lady. Will you do me a very big favour?
Of course.
Will you just say hello to Faye for a moment?
Hello to Faye, of course. Mwah, sending her lots of love. Hi, darling. You all right? You've been through the wars.
Getting there very slowly.
You've got to get there quicker.
Yes, I know. I'm trying very hard.
I don't want to be worrying about you all the time, Faye.
Please don't worry about me.
Of course I do. You know who I am by now, and of course I think about you when I'm not in the studio. Of course I worry.
Cookie.
Well, listen, you take care, and you take care of that wonderful man of yours as well.
Yes, I will.
And I'm sending you big hugs and love for your fight ahead.
I'm not coming back your way, Pat, okay? You have a good night, darling, okay?
All right, you two look after yourselves. The nicest, sweetest couple in the world. Thank you. It's so lovely to speak to you, to Sheldon and Faye then. Faye's been going through some health battles, but she's tough. She's tough. Right, I've got to take a break at this point, but I will be back in just a moment.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning. This is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And we're talking about the rise of the machine, really, the AI robots that are humanoid robots. I can't bear it. Are going to be out this year. I mean, it's not a long. It's here. And Gary has sent me a message. Morning, Gary. He says, my worry about AI is that AI systems learn from data, and if that data is biased, the AI will perpetrate or even amplify those biases. This could lead to unfair or discriminatory outcomes in critical areas such as loan approvals, hiring processes, healthcare diagnoses and law enforcement, disproportionately impacting marginalised communities. And that's Gary in Glasgow. And I don't remember if you remember Little Britain. It's not very popular anymore because it was a bit naughty. But there was that woman, wasn't there, who go, computer says no. Computer says no. And so you're right. And what you're also right about is that AI has already been proved to be racist in certain aspects. So, and this is how AI will be used. I don't know if you remember, a few years ago now, it's just popped into my head, that AI was going to be used in social services for detecting people's voices when they phone up for benefits, to tell if they were lying or not. So that technology has been about for a long time. I don't think it happened in the end, but there was definitely, I remember doing a phone-in on it, talking about how, you know, this technology could detect with insurance companies or with benefits companies or your bank or somebody you might fib to. They can tell if you're lying or not. And don't be the least bit surprised if this starts to come to the fore as well, particularly with companies, like I say, insurance companies. And that had already had biases against certain accents. So, or people who stuttered, or people with disabilities who can't, speak fully formed, words for whatever reason, some neurological issues, and that those models were already biased. Anybody with a stutter they assumed was lying. Anybody with, any issue with their mouths or their voices, or even had a cold or anything like that, they were lying. So there's already biases built into the system, and I'm absolutely with you, Gary. There's absolutely no problem with me agreeing with all of that, because it's already there. Tonya is in Devon. Morning, Tonya. How are you?
Hello, Petrie. Yeah, hi.
Is this really you? Is this?
I am human. Yeah.
You're not a robot. Okay.
I think so. I don't know.
I don't know anymore. Not in this cold.
I don't, but I'm not sure actually. But yeah, I hope so. Oh God. No. On the robot thing. Before I start what I was going to say about robots, just to have a quick thought about when you're speaking to these AI bots online. If you've got some problem with some tech, with some company, whether it's whatever, some company you've got a problem with, and you're speaking to one of their chatbots because there's no one's available in customer services, as you would have to do.
Because they've sacked them all because of the chatbots.
Yeah. Have you ever, I can't think of any time that I've ever had to chat to one of those chatbots when they've ever been able to come up with anything rational or any good suggestion. It's been just a complete waste of time.
Complete waste of time, and it makes you feel that as a customer you're not valuable at all. They don't care about you. The only one, and I hate to say this because I've loathed the company, is Amazon. Is really good at solving problems without having to talk to anybody.
All right, I don't know about that, but I'm just saying that because when we get you get your which might be actually quite useful, your cleaning robot, because I'm always thinking, oh, guys, AI, it's no good. I wish I had something to clean the floor, But when you do get this actual humanoid, more robot thing, and if they say come into your houses, because at the moment they've got the dogs coming in. I don't know if you've noticed they've got these robot dogs.
Yeah, terrify me. Yeah.
Right, it's great, isn't it? But so when it's the human ones that, I think that what they first of all they gave us the women to make it less threatening, didn't they? Because you had Sophia, who became the
the artist, wasn't it? She became an artist.
Yeah, she became well, she also got to be a citizen of the Soviet Union, I think, or something at some point. But then they put the women out first because they're less threatening, because obviously having a load of male robots suddenly out could be quite, and especially if what is threatening is when they start to look really human, right? Because when they look like robots, but once they start to look really
and that's
human,
the point. They want them to look like humans, so we accept them.
Yeah. So then again, if you get the male ones, I mean women as well, but if you get the male ones that come in, then what happens then? What I was cool about was, when will the lawyers get involved? So, for instance, someone is at some point going to start claiming, and I don't actually buy this. Maybe it could be possible at some point, but someone is going to claim, I don't know, sentience, right? Because we're going to start to feel. I know that if I was talking to one of these things, I would start, because I think, God, I'm so sensitive. I can't kill a slug. I can't. And I sometimes think I'm hurting a Coke can if I step on it. So if I was talking to one of these robots, I would definitely start to think sentience, right?
Yeah, of course.
Definitely, right?
Yeah.
So at one point, if the lawyer's going to get involved, there's going to be questions over sentience. And then what happens? Okay, so are you going to be up in court because you haven't treated it right? Or what could happen?
Yeah, giving human rights to robots. Because they will learn empathy. It's like a psychopath, right? Psychopaths, the pathology of that is that they fake empathy. I used to have a boss that was a psychopath, and I was at the same company with Gabriella, who's my producer now. She knows exactly what I'm talking about. And he would fake anger, for example, because he couldn't emote it. He couldn't feel it. So when he was angry, he got very, very angry and kicked bins and behaved in a way that was over the top, that wasn't natural anger for the situation. And with empathy and things like that, he couldn't feel it, so he would fake it. This is what psychopaths do. They literally, it's almost not their fault. They don't know how to feel emotions, right? And that will be the same as robots, but they will fake it to the degree that we believe it.
Yeah, it could be fake, and at some point, I've always not bought the idea that because mind and brain aren't necessarily the same thing.
No.
So when they keep saying that AI is as intelligent as humans, no, because you're not bringing spirit and mind into it, and none of us know what the mind is. We can't prove it. So ultimately, no, they haven't made a human mind. They might have made a technical thing that can calculate, but so I don't buy all that. But at the same time, there will be part of me that is, how do I know that, for instance, electricity isn't... I believe there's consciousness in everything anyway. I'm a bit of a, everything, water's conscious, water may be... So how do I know that, anyway, that electricity isn't conscious? How do I know? I don't know. But anyway, if that came in, but also the other side of it is then when this male robot rapes you or attacks you, because it probably will at some point when it goes out of control, or several male... Who's
responsible?
Well, also, is it? Because then the lawyers will be saying that it's got diminished responsibility, because then they'll go the other way. Then they'll go, no, it can't be responsible because it's not fully capacity, and therefore it can rape you in court. You can't do anything because it hasn't got capacity. But if you if you got angry with it and put it in the cupboard, oh no, you'll be up in court because it's got feelings. You see what I'm saying? I don't know, but
I totally get it, and I think these are the questions, and this is the narrative that has, even as people might think we're crazy, but if it's possible, in my view, at any point in the future, then it is probable. And therefore needs to be thought about now.
Yeah.
And guardrails put in place. But we know already that AI is breaking its teaching. We know that AI is capable of teaching itself to lie, which is a very human thing to do. And it's one of the first things as children we learn to do, actually. Lying is an important stage in our development. So this AI is learnt, it wasn't taught it. Just like you don't teach your children to lie, but they lie. Have you got a cookie in your hand? No. I can see it. No, I haven't. And it's that. And the AI has already jumped that hurdle.
Yeah, and we don't know. Can you imagine? I mean, going back to the 1980s now, can you imagine all the 1980s? If we'd been talking now and saying about this would happen, and if we wouldn't have believed ourselves that we would have, you know, we would have these handhold things called smartphones. We wouldn't have believed it.
Absolutely not.
We wouldn't have. But in a few
we were happy killing each other with clackers.
Well, exactly. So anything can happen, can't it? You know, it is fascinating, though. It is absolutely fascinating.
I find it absolutely, literally mind-blowing.
I don't want the dogs. I don't want the dogs. I want real dogs. I don't. But they're going to take over because everyone's going to want a dog that doesn't crap in the
street. With no personality. You know,
it will have a fake personality, though, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, I'm with you. Oh, Tonya, no.
I want a real dog. I don't want a fake dog.
No. Well, sometimes I'd like to switch Humphrey off.
You wouldn't really. You wouldn't really. You wouldn't. No, you wouldn't be with that. I've had to have mine put down a few months ago.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
She was 16 and she was suffering. She had to go, but I would. God, do I want a fake dog? No thanks.
No, I'm with you. I don't want fake anything. I don't want fake anything. I don't use Botox, or I probably should, but I'm not.
I don't even want a fake cat. I hate cats. I don't hate cats. I tolerate cats in the house when they come in, but I don't want a fake one.
No, I don't want a fake human beings. I don't want. I don't understand these sex bots. How could anybody have sex with a fake robot thing?
Well, they already are, though, aren't they?
I know.
I mean, men have always blown up dolls. Well, not just men even, but the point is that now, of course, there will be people that really do want that.
Yeah, and destroying any chance of any human-style relationships. I mean, people have already got AI boyfriends. You know that they text every day.
Well, yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, most people are living online anyway now.
But what's the point in having a fake boyfriend? I mean, it's bad enough having a real one.
Well, maybe it's less hassle. I mean, I don't. I mean, I'm gay anyway, so I don't want a fake boyfriend.
Do you want a fake girlfriend?
But maybe it's less hassle.
Yeah, but then they can't take the bins out. Mind you, they don't anyway, do they? So.
Well, they will when they're a robot.
Oh yes, if it's a robot, you can. Maybe it's not so bad after all. Tonya, it's lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Take care. You take care in this cold, won't you? Nice to speak to you. Thank you. Brilliant. Another brilliant call. I've got to take a very quick break, but I will be back. There's more to say about this, I think.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning. This is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you. I've just realised I look very square because my jumper's exactly the same colour as the chair. I look like I've got really big square shoulders. I promise you that's the chair. I'm down here. Anyway, Benjamin has said, love to the wonderful Sheldon and Faye. They are so adorable. We should all be so lucky and blessed to have a relationship as loving as them. Great show, Petrie. You're my bedtime tonic of sanity. Thank you. Yes, so lots of people sending you love, Sheldon and Faye, because you are adorable, in my view. There's a message here. It's a little bit muddled, Paul. I don't know if you want to try and resend it. We can't understand the middle section of this. But anyway, I'll read what makes sense. The insurance company I worked for in the 1970s trained me and others to detect voices and claims of fraud, I think you wanted to say. And he said it was based on activities of people who've been proven to make fake claims, and with AI, and that's the way AI is now. It isn't used to say yes or no, it's used as a red flag that requires more investigation. For example, a person who takes out a policy on a Monday and makes a claim on a Tuesday is a red flag. Now, I get that, and I get that the AI could be a useful tool, but what I don't want it to do is to start making those decisions, because there are people, like I said, with speech difficulties or you know, language difficulties or a strange accent or whatever that AI might flag as being odd, and that is discriminatory, right? That's not fair. That's not reasonable. I mean, if you're walking around with a stripy jumper on a swag bag over your shoulder, then fair enough. But other than that, we should all be treated as innocent and equal, in my view. Terry said, I'm 85 years of age. I've lived through many technical advances, and every time we are told it's a threat. I can remember pocket calculators being banned from schools as they were seen as bad. I can remember colour TV being introduced and told that it's too lifelike, and that's from The only thing I remember about pocket calculators at school was being able to spell the word boobs. Can't remember what the numbers were now. Just trying to think of it now. It was 80885. We thought it was hilarious. Anyway, misspent youth. I failed everything in maths, by the way, and that's probably why, reasonably. John is in West Yorkshire. Hello, John.
Hello, Petrie. How are you, my love?
Good morning. I'm really well. Hope you are too. You're managing with the cold up in Yorkshire?
Yeah, just about. Yeah, it's not icy, so...
Is there snow, though? Are you doing snow?
No, not yet, but we're expecting it. We're definitely expecting it.
Yeah, it's not okay. 2 days. We can manage. We can get through it.
Oh, yeah, we'll soldier on.
Especially you Yorkshire folk. You can...
Oh, yeah, we're hard up here.
Yeah, a cup of tea and a cup of tea and a chaser, and you'll be absolutely fine. What do you think about this technology, John?
Well, I mean, if we look back how the computer kind of started out, you know, with this big bulky item, wasn't it? You know, you had to be sort of...
A whole room. My school had one of the first schools, and it was like a whole room almost.
Yeah, this is it. So, yeah, but then it got a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller to the point where you could put it on your lap as a laptop.
Yeah.
And then it got even smaller where you could hold it in your hand as a phone.
Yeah, there's my phone.
You know?
That's it. That's like a whole computer.
Smaller.
Yeah.
Well, it got even smaller, Petra, didn't it? You know, you can wear it on your wrist as a watch, or as glasses, or even as a ring.
Got even smaller. Got a chip in your brain.
Even smaller. Well, this is my point, really. What's the next step, really? How much further can they go? I mean, I think it's an obvious answer, isn't it? But
well, Elon Musk is already experimenting with putting computer chips into people's brains to bypass the need for you know, Wi-Fi and YouTube and things like that. Yeah.
That's just
already
crazy,
happening.
I mean,
this is the thing. This is the thing, John. Is you're probably younger than me, but people of a similar sort of age group, we all think this is.
I'm 35.
Well, you're way younger than me then. I could be your mother. I could practically be your grandmother. But there's the point is that we think it's in the future, right? We all tend to think, oh, that's going to be that's way down the line. Yeah. And then when you realise, actually, we've been saying that for so long that the future is now.
Of course, yeah.
And that's the point with the boss of NVIDIA saying humanoid robots around this year, taking over millions of jobs, and you know, computer chips in your brain already here, being done.
I mean, I think personally, Petrie, I think that AI eventually, it's like you've just said it. I mean, it kind of already is, where it's going to be on every device. You know, it's going to be as standard as a web browser.
Yeah.
But what happens when the AI ends up in a chip in your brain?
I mean, it's here.
For itself anymore?
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. You're not going, or somebody can program you what to think. I mean,
so we're essentially just a living, in the flesh robot.
Essentially, but how easy would that be to control? Right?
Oh,
we wouldn't be demanding things like an NHS or, you know, clear roads or decent police officers. We wouldn't be demanding anything. That would just be nothing.
What happens if they'd switch it off? What would happen to us?
Well, maybe that's
stand there drooling.
Well, maybe that's just the way that they go. There's too many people on the planet. Let's switch off 1 billion and
I mean, we might sound like we're getting a bit far-fetched, but
it isn't. It isn't. That's the point. I mean, AI was set a question, a very basic question, right, to solve world hunger, and it came back with the answer, and the answer was kill half of the world's population.
Wow, that was the answer.
That was the answer. And if you think about it, that would solve world hunger, wouldn't it? That's it. But this is what they do, and they're having to teach these cars now, these autonomous cars, a moral structure. But who's teaching them, right? So at the moment, you've got a car that's driving itself, and in front of them, one of the questions is, in front of them, there's a woman with a buggy, and there's an old man, and they're all on the zebra crossing, and the car can't stop. Who do you kill? And a lot of people go, well, obviously you kill the old man. He's lived his life, whatever. But the old man turns out to be the greatest artist the world has ever seen, a philosopher and a surgeon, right? One of the rarest kinds of surgeons in the world. And you've just killed him because the car has made the decision that life is worth less than the woman with the child. And the woman with the child, by the way, is a drug dealer. And there isn't a child in the buggy, there is a bag of heroin. And yet the car, do you see the philosophical questioning there? The car is being taught to make a decision between those two things.
Just off face value, yeah.
Human life then becomes nothing. We become what we look like, or we become, there's no background to that, there's no information to that. But cars, trust me, right now, before they're allowed out, and they're already out on the roads, we know that, that's why the speed limit was reduced to 20 across major cities, is to allow these autonomous vehicles. And those autonomous vehicles now are being taught morals from people who don't have all the facts and don't have any morals.
That's just insane. Do you remember, Petrie? Do you remember Honey, I Shrunk the Kids?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Do you remember watching that as a kid? When I were a kid, I mean, I must have been watching it in, must have been the noughties.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was living in Germany because I learnt to say it in German. Liebling, ich habe das Kinder geschrunken.
Ooh.
I know. But Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. So yeah, I mean that would have been 90s, early noughties. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
I believe it came out in the sort of late 90s.
Yeah.
But do you remember watching that and thinking, wow, oh my gosh, I wish we had that kind of thing. I remember a particular episode where the wife and the daughter basically had a VR. They essentially had a virtual reality headset, and we were watching that and we were like, oh my gosh, is that even a thing? Why can't we have that, you know? And now it's here.
And now it's here. And Star Trek with the flip phone, that flip thing, it made that funny noise.
Yep. And you were only cool if you closed it with your chin.
Oh, I loved my flip phone. I absolutely thought I was it when I had a flip. I really thought I was it when my flip phone, until I was lying in bed one day and I rolled over and it plopped into a glass of orange juice by the bed. That was the end of it.
Oh no!
Yeah, it died. And they weren't doing flip phones back then. Again, you couldn't get. It was a Nokia one, I think.
You know what they say, Petrie? You know they say how like they haven't, like they're actually what they release, what we believe is to be like sort of brand spanking new. But actually, they're kind of like 10 years ahead.
I know. Of course they are. Because they're innovating all the time.
What have they got in there?
I don't know.
That they're keeping from us.
I mean, already.
It's probably beyond our comprehension.
I mean, already. Do you remember when they were going after some piece of kit that they put on the? I think it was the moon. It might have been Mars, picking up something, and they said that because they had to, or some planet. I'm not being very good, am I? But basically, it was sent so long ago that the technology we have in our mobile phones now, it supersedes the technology that they used to put this thing on a different planet and to run it on a different planet already. It's just like kind of, hang on, what? And that wasn't even that long ago, but it supersedes anything that we did in space. I mean, it is.
When you put it into that perspective, it's just.
And of course,
crackers, isn't it?
Technology exponentially grows, doesn't it? So it learns something, then it teaches, and then keeps going faster and faster. I just want to get off now. I've had enough. But John, listen. Yeah, please, just stop. John, you look after yourself, won't you? Look after yourself with the snow that's coming. And hopefully I'll speak to you soon. Got to take another break, I'm afraid, but I will be back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good morning to you. This is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you until the top of the hour. I love this comment from Andrew in Salisbury. He says, I'm all for any intelligence in the world at the moment, artificial or organic. Yeah, I mean, that is a good point. And Lee says, AI worries me as I work in the IT industry, and at some point it'll replace me. But I think ultimately it will consume itself. As businesses replace people with machines for profit, at some point there'll be too few jobs and not enough money. Yeah, unless these companies are forced to pay national insurance and tax as if they were humans. They wouldn't have to pay them salaries, but they'd have to pay the tax on that salary and the national insurance so that it kept the coffers going. And that is something that I think possibly could happen. and not enough money. There's talk about universal basic income, but that money has to come from somewhere. Yeah, let's dream on about universal basic income as if they care about us. Quite often the machine gets things wrong too. Humanity will find a way. I love you, Lee. That's a good way to think about it. Let's go to the phones quickly. David is in London. Morning, David.
Hi, Petrie. Morning. Yes, about the future.
Mm.
Yeah, Petrie. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's your view of the future?
Petrie, yesterday it was reported that a member of the royal family was targeted in cruel artificial intelligence undressed images.
Yeah.
And what I want to say is that this kind of thing stops people from putting themselves out there, for example, to be a politician.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. I mean, you know, I don't think there would be any wish or desire to do a nude image of me, but it's possible, and can't imagine that. Awful. But you know, if somebody wanted to, they could, because my image is out there all the time on screen, and to a point you have to think, well, what can I do? You know, what can you do? But it does. You're absolutely right. Why would people want to be, you know, out in the world if their image can be, and there's also this sort of fake pornography as well, where it's actual moving images of people who've never been in the porn industry, and that is disgusting. Just leave people alone.
And Petrie, these social media companies that host this kind of thing, they know it's happening, or they certainly should. They certainly should know that it's happening, but they just clearly, it appears, they don't care.
China's managed to block all of that, and I know that China blocks a lot of things, but if they can block that one aspect, then we can as well. Everybody can. David, thank you. Excuse me. Yeah, I think David makes an excellent point. Why would people want to become politicians or actors or whatever, unless you just go, well, whatever, do what you like. Paul is in Devon. Another call from Devon. Like Devon.
Hello there.
Hello, Paul. What do you think?
Well, it ain't snowing here, so never mind, eh?
No, you're a bit further. It's cold, probably, but it won't. Will it snow?
Yeah, it's cold.
You probably won't get it down there.
I was actually. I've never been a fan of it, and I've always been a bit of a technophobe, is that what they call them? Yeah, technophobe. But I was absolutely astounded today. Don't ask me why, but I actually used it for the first time ever.
What the Chat GPT or whatever?
Yeah.
I've never used it.
We, as the public, need to make maximum usage of it while we're still allowed to use it.
Really? You've changed then? You love it?
Absolutely.
Why? Look, what about it?
I'll tell you what I did. Okay? I pressed the microphone button and I said, these are my exact words, is it illegal to assist anyone who enters this country illegally? Okay? Now, all these politicians, they're gibbering on about, oh, we can't change the law and we've got to adhere to the European common rights and all that business. The law's already there.
Of course it is.
It gives you the answer. And the answer is, it is illegal to assist somebody who enters this country illegally under Section 25 of the 1971 Immigration Act.
But that's why they're arresting migrants now when they come across on the boats who were driving the boats. But they could have done that years ago. So anybody who's actually working the boat, they can now arrest them.
If they don't really want us to know this, do they?
No, they don't want us.
If they were applying the law correctly, every single MP would currently be in court, and every single hotel owner would currently be in court, because it's there to see. I mean, you've only got to Google it. No,
the law is specific on that. It is in aiding and abetting the criminal act. It's after that act, so it would be the act of driving the boat, or the act of putting people on the boats, or the act of supplying life jackets for people on the boats. That is aiding and abetting people crossing. Once they're here, to put them up in a hotel is not a criminal act. It's not, because the crime is in that bit, not in what happens after.
It actually says, if you read it all, it actually says in assisting them.
Yeah, but that is assisting the journey.
No, assisting.
Yeah, go back and ask it again. It's not once they land, it's not illegal to help them then. It's illegal to assist and aid and abet on the crossing.
But I mean, even so, there's so many hidden things that they don't really want us to know. So it's not going to be any different to the internet thing that they just introduced.
Yeah, I mean, the genie's out of the bottle, right? The genie's out of the bottle. There's no point even thinking about putting it back in, because people will find a way around all these porn sites. I don't know, setting up VPNs or whatever. Is it called a VPN? I don't know. Yes, it is a VPN where you can circumvent all the information. The dark web exists. All sorts of criminal activity goes on there. They've not been able to shut that down. The point is that it's out there now, and it's not going anywhere.
Well, the VPNs. I mean,
I wouldn't know how to set up a VPN.
All I know is anybody who's got one of those TV sticks.
Yeah.
That's paid to have it hacked. You can watch. I was at a friend's house a few weeks ago,